If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 61, The First Step to Peaceful Coexistence. The first great ninja war that swept across the entire ninja world officially ended with the mutual deaths of the Tsuchikage and Mizukage. This war was especially brutal, with 4 Kage losing their lives, the second Hokage Senju Tobirama, the second Reikage, the second Tsuchikage Mu, and the second Mizukage Hazuki Gengetsu. The entire ninja world was immersed in grief. Not only the shinobi, but also the civilians caught in the crossfire suffered deeply. Their homes were destroyed, their loved ones were killed without reason, and they became refugees, wandering endlessly across the land. Hunger and cold became their worst nightmares. To survive, they could only search for places that would take them in. However, for the ones responsible, the hidden villages, they would not accept strangers without reason, fearing they might be enemy spies. Unless you were an ignorant child or possessed some special talent, they would take you in. Then, they would use their own methods of education to mold you into someone who would serve their village in the future. As for the elderly and the useless, they could only continue wandering, searching for a place that would let them live. In the end, they would freeze or starve to death on the road. 5 days after the war ended in Uzumaki, all the citizens had grown accustomed to this communal way of life. After eating breakfast in the morning, they would follow the assigned shinobi to their designated work areas. 3 meals a day, each with meat. Such a life was something they could hardly believe. Even in peacetime, they could not afford 3 meals a day, let alone meat. Only shinobi lived like this before. Though the work was hard and the weather cold, no one slacked off. They cherished this period deeply. And every household could receive a sufficient amount of charcoal at regular intervals. Though the smell was unpleasant, with Jun-sama's help, they could light a stove and make it more bearable. Perhaps, under Jun-sama's leadership, life in Uzumaki would become even better. They were filled with hope. Pregnant women and infants were housed separately by Jun-sama. That area had no charcoal, but there were enough clothes to keep them warm through the winter. Of course, if it was a family, they could also be assigned a small home of their own. Additionally, during illness, anyone could seek free treatment from the medical nin. Such a life was beyond imagination. Actually, war isn't so bad, a young man chopping wood said to his companion. 3 meals a day with meat and no fear of the cold. Don't talk nonsense, his companion rolled his eyes. That's because the war is over. If it were still wartime, we'd probably still be hiding in caves. Exactly. All of this is thanks to Jun-sama, another man carrying logs said with admiration. I heard from the shinobi that under Jun-sama's leadership, our lives will keep improving. However, the supervisor nearby noticed their chatter and walked over sternly. What are you doing? Get back to work. Our area is already the slowest. If we get punished and lose our meat rations, you'll regret it. Haha, the young men laughed sheepishly, leaning in. Shinobi-sama, tell us a story. Tell us about the war. Yet. We can listen while we chop wood. Don't call me Shinobi-sama, the supervisor said sternly. Call me supervisor, or supervisor too. They weren't afraid of his stern expression, they were used to it. Aside from that, shinobi weren't so different from them. Last time they worked well, supervisor 2 even gave them a big bowl of meat. The thick, juicy meat, just thinking about it made their mouths water. You want to hear stories about Jun-sama? Uzumaki Jun smiled helplessly. Wait until mealtime. Work hard now, or if Uzumaki Jun's team overtakes us, I'll really whip you. Yes. No one took the threat seriously, still laughing as they responded. They'd heard it many times before, but he never actually did it, just a kick to the rear, and then it was over. Uzumaki Jun watched everyone working diligently and murmured, this feeling is really nice. Ever since becoming a shinobi, people would bow and say respectfully, greetings, Shinobi-sama. Then, they would leave in fear. At first, it felt novel, but over time, it felt wrong. Gradually, his only remaining friends were fellow shinobi. When Jun-sama first assigned him to supervise civilians, he was both nervous and excited. He had never led civilians before and feared failing Jun-sama's task. As for the excitement, Jun-sama actually remembered him. So he accepted the task eagerly, sternly leading the civilians at first. But after a while, this feeling is nostalgic, Uzumaki Jun murmured. These people weren't afraid of him anymore, they even joked with him. Now he understood why things had been the way they were before. Civilians and shinobi simply didn't interact enough. They were afraid. Afraid of dying suddenly at a shinobi's hands. Peace is truly wonderful. How are things below? Uzumaki Jun asked the shinobi beside him. Any conflicts? This was only the first step, getting civilians and shinobi to coexist and integrate. As technology advanced, ordinary people's power would grow, while shinobi's role would diminish. So, if shinobi didn't adapt, they might disappear in the future. Now, while his authority was strong, he would make them coexist peacefully, so it wouldn't feel strange later. Jun didn't want to follow a purely technological path. He wanted to forge a new way for the ninja world, one that combined shinobi arts and technology, like scientific ninja tools. But now was not the time. Because there were too few shinobi, which would hinder Uzumaki development. At first, the civilians were afraid, but after a while, they've been coexisting peacefully. The male shinobi acting as secretary replied respectfully, filled with admiration. To think Jun-sama could make civilians and shinobi live in harmony, this was unimaginable in the ninja world. Shinobi stood above, holding power over life and death, while civilians feared them, afraid of dying for no reason. But now, because they worked together, shinobi and civilians could coexist peacefully. It was unbelievable. Perhaps the era of peaceful coexistence between civilians and shinobi would begin under Jun-sama's rule. Uzumaki Hibiki looked at the 7-year-old boy with reverence. Maybe Jun-sama would become a great figure in the ninja world, just like the legendary sage of 6 paths who founded ninja, bringing a different kind of peace. True peace. Chapter 62, Wild stories are just for listening. Uzumaki Jun nodded at Uzumaki Hibiki's words. He had already guessed it would be like this. Because of his current authority, the Uzunin were very obedient. So now was the best time to resolve the class conflicts in the land of whirlpools. Since Uzumaki Kai had led people to fish and hunt, the secretary by his side was temporarily replaced. At first, he had considered getting a female secretary who would be pleasing to the eye and have a sweet voice. But there were too few female genin. Most were assigned to lead groups of civilian women. And Uzumaki Jun looked at the little girl curiously, glancing around next to him. He was also taking care of a little girl. When he first heard that Kushina had recognized an older sister, Uzumaki Jun was curious. Who could possibly be called sister by the bloody pepper, the little demon of Kirigakur? But when he saw it was Nagato's mother, Uzumaki Jun was stunned. This was the future founder of the underworld's #1 organization in the shinobi world. Even if just a puppet. But she was still a ruthless person. She had killed the shinobi world's special grade teacher, Jiraiya. Especially when he saw that Uzumaki Fus was pregnant, Uzumaki Jun immediately thought about the dangers of charcoal to pregnant women. He quickly arranged for pregnant women to be grouped together separately, with extra clothing prepared to keep them warm. Otherwise, if a future genius of the land of whirlpools died during childbirth, Uzumaki Jun wouldn't even know where to cry. This was the future of the land of whirlpools. If I can gather the entire team Toad, I wonder what will happen. Just thinking about it excited him. Is there anything lacking? Uzumaki Jun thought for a moment and asked. With so many people, it was impossible for him to oversee everything personally. So basically, each person in charge reported to their superior every night, and the secretary relayed the information to him the next day. The Ministry of Works sent word that many teams below have not received tools yet. Uzumaki Hibiki flipped through the memo in his hand and said. They hope Lord Jun can think of a solution quickly. It seems he can't hold on much longer. Reading this, Uzumaki Hibiki felt a headache coming on. The Minister of Works had been pestering him for a long time, even disturbing his sleep at night, making it hard for him to rest recently. But he couldn't produce these tools either. Uzumaki Hibiki secretly glanced at Uzumaki Jun and saw that his lord also had a pained expression. Tools. However, Uzumaki Jun was also helpless about this. Because they needed to cut trees and fish. For ordinary people or shinobi, tools were extremely important. But it was too late to smelt iron now, not to mention. The land of whirlpools didn't even have iron mines. In the end, he had no choice but to exchange for the sand village's Kekii Genkai, magnet release. And it cost 3 million reputation points. So expensive. Even more expensive than a devil fruit. When he asked the system why, it said something like, Devil fruits are the mainstream power in the One Piece world, while Kekkei Genkai are too limited in the Shinobi world. Synthesizing them is very troublesome, and they can only be inherited through bloodlines. Awakening them also has conditions, so obtaining them is extremely difficult. And anyway, you can't exchange for devil fruits, so why ask so much? Uzumaki Jun instantly thought, what the hell? It's really a seller's market. What could he say? Other than hee, what else could he say? So in the end, he still exchanged for it and used magnet release, gold dust axe technique. Magnet release, gold dust saw technique. One by one, he created them using chakra. But even with his massive chakra reserves, he couldn't produce hundreds of thousands of tools. Recently, he had been so exhausted his kidneys hurt. He felt weak. Let me rest for a bit, Uzumaki Jun said helplessly. I'm still a child. Working so hard all the time wasn't good for his young body's development. What if he didn't grow tall? Hearing Lord Jun's words, Uzumaki Hibiki was speechless. He had almost forgotten that no matter how powerful Lord Jun was, he was still just a 7-year-old child. Yes, I will inform them, Uzumaki Hibiki said. No matter what, Lord Jun's health was very important. He was the future of the land of whirlpools. Hearing Uzumaki Hibiki's words, Uzumaki Jun was stunned. He actually took it seriously? Forget it. After the inspection, I'll go back to work, Uzumaki Jun said helplessly. No matter what, the tools had to be prepared. Otherwise, if the follow-up work couldn't proceed, it would be disastrous. And not to mention, this gold dust was really useful. Not only could it conduct chakra, but it could also transform into any shape for attack or defense. Making axes out of it was even better than steel. The so-called strongest defense was truly well-deserved. No wonder Gaara wasn't favored by his father. It was probably because he didn't inherit magnet release and couldn't bring profits to Kirigakur. And later, why did Gaara adopt someone with magnet release as his godson? Probably because Kirigakur was out of money. After all, in the later stages of the Shinobi world, peace prevailed, and the role of Shinobi became less important. Kirigakur didn't have any special products, so they had no income. They probably planned to sell gold dust to make money. Otherwise, if the village had no money, it couldn't develop at all. Shinobi from Konaha have arrived and hope Lord Jun will meet them, Uzumaki Hibiki flipped through the memo and said. They say Lady Mito misses you. Regarding this, everyone in the land of whirlpools was disdainful. They all knew what Konaha wanted, so they advised Lord Jun not to pay attention. However, he would still have to go to Konaha eventually, but not now. Don't pay attention to them for now, Uzumaki Jun said. Also, don't let them enter the land of whirlpools. Tell them the land of whirlpools is in ruins now and can't afford to host them. If you find spies from other villages, then knock them out and throw them away. Right now, they couldn't afford to provoke them. Knocking them out was enough, no need to kill. After all, there were no secrets here. If they saw something, so be it. Later, they could gather the power of the masses to make all spies unable to hide. You know. The power of the masses exceeds your imagination. Yes. Uzumaki Hibiki was satisfied with this decision. Damn it, why weren't they so enthusiastic before? Now they're so eager, there must be a scheme. After all, Konaha is very shady. Actually, he had expected his reputation to spread, but he didn't think it would happen so quickly. Probably Hazuki Gengetsu told Konaha. He just didn't know if this eyebrowless guy could get compensation from Hiruzen Sarutobi. As for the words about the meaning of being a cage that were spread along with the Tsuchikage's mutual destruction, Uzumaki Jun ignored them. Probably some bootlicker spread them. Like how in a few years, people would definitely say things like, the third Hokage was the strongest cage of his generation. This was all for political power. As for Hazuki Genjutsu's words, probably spread by his faction to promote the idea that the Mizu cage hadn't neglected his duties, making their lives a little easier. After all, this time, Hazuki Gengetsu lost so much that even the Hazuki clan was selling off their assets. Not to mention the lower-ranked shinobi. As for why the Tsuchikage fought to the death with him, Uzumaki Jun guessed that at first, he just wanted to apply some pressure at the border and then leave when Hazuki Gengetsu showed up. But how could Hazuki Gengetsu accept that? After swimming all the way here with great effort, you're not going to fight? This is just cheating. So Hazuki Gengetsu went crazy, fighting while cursing him as a dishonorable coward. This immediately pissed off the Tsuchikage. Do you know why his whole body was bandaged? Wasn't it because of his fight with Hazuki Gengetsu, where he was roasted like a pig? Even smoked roast the feeling really hurt. So the Tsuchikage thought, what's the big deal about tricking you once? After all, he had been burned into a level 10 disability, disfigured, and even finding a wife would be troublesome. Compared to cheating, tricking you once, why are you cursing? As a cage, you have no manners. Then the Tsuchikage started cursing too. In the end, old and new grudges erupted in that moment, and the two of them, having fought to the point of rage, ended up killing each other. Probably because the scene wasn't very dignified and was too embarrassing for Cage, their subordinates had to beautify it to maintain the Cage's dignity. Didn't you see? Even Uegakur agreed with Kirigakur. Their Cage was just that great. So these wild stories are just for listening. Don't take them seriously. Otherwise, people might think you're insulting their Cage and come after you. Fanatics are not to be messed with. Chapter 63, Collecting Slogans. Uzumaki Jun walked around, inspecting various work sites. All the workers and ninjas, upon seeing Lord Jun, respectfully stopped their tasks and bowed to him. This filled Uzumaki Jun, the transmigrator, with immense satisfaction. After all, in his previous life, he was just a shut-in who had never received such admiration. Tisk tisk, this feeling. It felt really good. With a smile on his face, Uzumaki Jun nodded repeatedly, adopting an expression that seemed to say, "Comrades, you've worked hard, and comrades, well done," as he approached them. He casually asked about their work conditions, whether they had eaten their fill, and whether they felt cold at night. He spoke as if the future of Uzumaki depended on them and that they must not suffer any harm. If not for his young age, he would have even shaken their hands. After this round of interactions, the citizens of Uzumaki, whether civilians or ninjas, were moved to tears, expressing their determination to shine for Uzumaki and dedicate themselves to the nation with fervent passion. Seeing this, Uzumaki Jun nodded in satisfaction. Good, very good. If things continued like this, Uzumaki grand ambitions would surely be realized. Only when citizens loved their country could the nation grow stronger. But for some reason, Uzumaki Jun felt like something was missing. Yet, the people of Uzumaki around him were all enthusiastic and hard-working, with no one slacking off. Because the Senju left the day after the war ended, Uzumaki Jun didn't know what punishment the Senju clan would face. But if they didn't leave Konaha, their fate was already sealed. After all, the reputation of the two great clans that founded the hidden village was simply too grand, especially the Senju clan, which had produced two Hokages. Even if they harbored no ill intentions toward the village, for the sake of the village's harmonious development, Sarutobi Hiruzen would still take action. And even if Hiruzen didn't act, Dans would take matters into his own hands, believing it was for the best. Just look at the future fates of the Uchiha and Hyuga clans. Did the Uchiha have ill intentions? Their scowls were just natural. Back when Madara was young, his scowl was so intense that even when he helped a child up, the child would get scared just from seeing his face. So it was just innate and couldn't be helped. But this gave the village the perfect excuse. Why the scowls? It must be dissatisfaction with the village, dissatisfaction with the Hokage. This was rebellion, this was treachery. Even if they weren't planning to rebel, they would probably be forced into it, because they were just too unstable. And what about the Hyuga clan? The Hokage had already reprimanded them. When the Hyuga heiress, the future Hokage's wife, was kidnapped, the village blamed the Hyuga. What had the Hyuga even done? They were just celebrating the young lady's birthday. How was that wrong? Sigh. Perhaps it was then that the Hyuga realized the truth and quickly surrendered, offering up the clan head's younger brother to appease the Hokage and prevent further retaliation. Otherwise, tisk tisk. What use were ninjas who didn't obey orders? It wasn't until the heiress became the future princess that the clan dared to develop itself fully. So, Konaha's heart was not broad enough. They were always afraid of others seizing power. The White Fang was like this, the Senju were like this, the Uchiha were like this. As long as you weren't part of the Hokage's lineage, it was best not to stand out too much, lest you died for no reason. Of course, none of these events had happened yet. And because the Senju clan left, the number of Earth-style ninjas in the Uzumaki clan was instantly halved. After all, Uzumaki only had a few dozen Earth-style ninjas to begin with. This meant construction progress was immediately slowed by half. Indeed, Uzumaki Jun sighed helplessly. A ninja's skills must be diverse. This way, they could handle more tasks. Anaki, what are you thinking about? Uzumaki Kushina asked curiously when she saw Uzumaki Jun's troubled expression. Uzumaki Jun patted her head and smiled. Nothing. Looking at the adorable little girl in front of him, Uzumaki Jun figured Namikaze Minato wouldn't have a chance anymore. Kushina would live happily in Uzumaki from now on, with no need to get involved in Konaha's shady dealings. Kushina, feeling Uzumaki Jun patting her head, blushed and made a contented expression. Uzumaki Jun chuckled, looking at Kushina's red hair and her flushed red cheeks. Suddenly, it hit him. Working class slogans. No wonder he felt like something was missing. How could there be work without slogans? Things like labor is glorious, creation is great. Promote model workers, strive to be pioneers. How could spreading socialist ideals in the ninja world lack these distinctive features? Indeed, it was cuteness that inspired ideas. Otherwise, why hadn't he thought of it earlier when seeing others' red hair? Uzumaki Jun pinched Kushina's blushing cheeks. So cute. Decision made. He would find some cloth strips, write slogans on them, and hang them up everywhere. This way, he could subtly influence people while also reducing illiteracy. After all, most civilians in the ninja world were illiterate. If they saw a few words every day, wouldn't they eventually learn them? Phrases like have more children, plant more trees, work hard, dare to innovate would all be written up. Promoting socialist spirit was one goal, but another was to teach them to read. Later, he could even open night schools for young and middle-aged adults to attend. After all, cultural education was also part of achieving peace. He could even work on spiritual civilization. Why not? He needed to cultivate their hard-working and patriotic spirit. But right now, where would the fabric come from? Most of the fabric had already been used for winter clothing, and Gato hadn't returned yet. Plus, the food reserves were probably running low. If nothing goes wrong, he should be back in a couple of days, Uzumaki Jun mused, stroking his chin. Then he could send Gato out again. Otherwise, what if he turned into a middle-aged, obese, balding creep? He needed to train while he was still young. That way, when his future wife went square dancing, he could hold her hand and dance with her. Otherwise, note this down. Uzumaki Jun said sternly to Uzumaki Hibiki. This was very important. Whether Uzumaki could become strong in the future depended on whether spiritual civilization could keep up. As for the rest, he'd rely on the system. If the system wasn't enough, he'd resort to trickery. After all, the ninja world had no shortage of genius scientists who were held back by being ninjas. Yes. Seeing Lord Jun's serious expression, Uzumaki Hibiki knew this matter was crucial. Though he didn't understand why, ever since the war began, Lord Jun's decisions had always been proven correct. While Uzumaki Jun was still visiting the working ninjas and civilians, the clan elders approached him, looking indignant. Uzumaki Jun felt uneasy. What was going on? Who had offended them? Grand Elder. Uzumaki Jun asked cautiously. Little Jun, the Grand Elder said earnestly, is there anything we old folks can do? Otherwise, we. Uzumaki Jun looked at them in confusion. Wasn't leisure a good thing? The elders were no longer young. During the war, they had no choice, but now. Shouldn't they be resting? These were Uzumaki national treasures. When it came time to universalize ninja education, they would be needed. It seemed they were bored and wanted to realize their life's value in their later years. To contribute their remaining energy to Uzumaki. Uzumaki Jun frowned. If the elders joined the civilians in logging or fishing, that wouldn't be ideal. Would they be supervisors or managers? Given their seniority, being around ordinary people would only make them uncomfortable. Suddenly, Uzumaki Jun thought of something. What were these elders best at? They were treasures. Having studied sealing techniques their whole lives, they understood them better than anyone. If there is something you can help with, Uzumaki Jun said, summoning a scroll, though it actually came from his system space, and handing it to the Grand Elder. Can you inscribe this lightweight boulder technique into a sealing scroll? Combining ninjutsu with science might just begin with this step. Chapter 64, The Integration of Science and Ninjutsu. IDKY author is mentioning Orochimaru as Mitsuki's mentor instead of directly naming Orochimaru. I will keep it as it is. Scientific ninja tools had already appeared in Boruto's era. They were developed by Mitsuki's mentor, who combined scientific power to embed various ninjutsu into scientific devices. Even those who couldn't use chakra could wield these tools. Therefore, these tools must have built-in energy sources. Otherwise, how could ordinary people use them? To some extent, scientific ninja tools narrowed the gap between ninja and civilians. However, it remains unclear how they replenish chakra. Do they absorb it from the air? If that's the case, then the status of ninja would truly be in jeopardy. Continuing down this path, ninja might eventually disappear. This is likely the reason why old-school ninja resisted scientific ninja tools. If not for the sudden emergence of the Tsutsuki clan, whose abilities resembled scientific ninja tools, Naruto probably wouldn't have wanted to develop scientific ninja tools either. Because the village's income was running dry. If everyone possessed power, who would still commission missions? Thus, an alien invasion became a necessary condition for peace. But these scientific ninja tools were still used for war. They didn't liberate ninja from their roles as killing machines for productive purposes. Instead, they rendered ninja obsolete, turning everyone into potential new instruments of slaughter. However, this was not the path Uzumaki Jun wished to take. Naruto's so-called "as long as everyone contributes a little love" did not include ordinary civilians. It only constrained ninja, preventing them from harming civilians during wars. Yet afterward, ninja continued doing what they always did. They only refrained from acting recklessly out of respect for their village leaders and because the two most overpowered figures in the ninja world were still alive. Otherwise, ninja would have likely destroyed scientific ninja tools long ago. The clash between the old and new eras in the future probably stemmed from this. The conservative faction didn't want to step down too soon, while the progressive faction sought to seize power. Eventually, they collided head-on. Therefore, separating civilian-use ninjutsu from military-use ninjutsu was an inevitable trend. At the same time, it was necessary to reaffirm the importance of ninja, ensuring they wouldn't be phased out by the rise of science. This required the integration of science and chakra. Engrave this lightweight boulder technique into a ceiling scroll, Uzumaki Jun pondered for a moment before saying. Make it so that it activates as soon as chakra is input. This would greatly expand its applicability, allowing even ninja of other chakra natures to use it. However, converting chakra into earth nature chakra was not that simple. If successful, this lightweight boulder technique could become the engine for flying machines. If inscribed onto aircraft models, it would create genuine airplanes. Even better, by adding a limiter to control altitude based on chakra input. Elevators could also be realized. Chakra, as a clean energy source, had such vast developmental potential. Uzumaki Jun couldn't understand why, in later eras, no one in the ninja world utilized chakra as an energy source, instead sticking to coal, oil, electricity, and other conventional energies. Some even sought to relegate traditional ninja to history. What a tremendous waste! If this works, the clan elders discussed among themselves. They had never attempted something like this before. They weren't sure if it would succeed. After all, this wasn't a sealing technique but a complete ninjutsu. Engraving it onto a scroll, making it independent of chakra nature, and reusable. No one in the ninja world had ever done such a thing. It's fine. Take it step by step, Uzumaki Jun said. This might change the future of Kirigakur. Or even the future of the entire ninja world. If all ninjutsu could be inscribed onto scrolls like magic, the developmental prospects of the ninja world might truly extend to exploring the cosmos and achieving interstellar migration, rather than remaining as it was now, where only the strongest could roam the universe. Uzumaki Jun believed it was possible. After all, in the future, a weapons scientist hindered by being a ninja, inscribed ninjutsu into wrist-sized tools, developing scientific ninja tools. So, it was only a matter of time. But once this hurdle was overcome, engraving other ninjutsu would become much easier. The ninja world would undoubtedly experience a leap forward. Right now, if not for the limitations of charcoal temperatures, Uzumaki Jun would have already started producing cement. During winter, when people had little to do, they could begin constructing proper residential houses, saving a lot of trouble later. But charcoal couldn't reach the temperatures needed to produce glass or cement. These plans would have to be postponed. However, if fire nature chakra could be sealed into scrolls with controllable temperatures, charcoal and similar fuels would become obsolete. Thus, the miniaturization and sustainable utilization of ninjutsu were crucial for the future. For now, they would have to stick to the old industrial path. If all nature transformations can be inscribed, Uzumaki will usher in the future of the ninja world, Uzumaki Jun said solemnly. It was necessary to paint a grand vision. Otherwise, how could people stay motivated? And what if they succeeded? In that case, seeing Jun's serious expression, the clan elders also grew earnest. If this truly came to pass, they, as pioneers of a new era, would surely leave their mark on the ninja world. Then, we will diligently search for a method. Watching the elders walk away while deep in discussion, Uzumaki Jun nodded in satisfaction. In the future, the elders likely wouldn't have opportunities for war. They would only serve as deterrents from the rear. It was better to transition them into research experts now. They might even produce some pleasant surprises. In time, they could become doctors, scholars, each mentoring a group of students. Tisk tisk. Just thinking about it felt familiar. Lord Jun, the heads of the engineering and food departments came looking for you earlier, Uzumaki Hibiki said with a headache. They're short on food and tools. Uzumaki Jun's contemplative expression instantly fell. There was never a moment of rest. Tools weren't a big issue. He could just use ninjutsu to produce them. But food. Now that winter had set in, Uzumaki Kai was obtaining less and less food, and Gato's supplies still hadn't arrived. Tell the engineering department to come collect the tools later, Uzumaki Jun rubbed his temples and said helplessly. As for food, how long can our current stock last? If we stick to 3 meals a day, it'll last until tomorrow night. Hearing Uzumaki Hibiki's words, Uzumaki Jun was stunned. That meant they only had food for today and tomorrow. By the day after, they'd have nothing left? It was running out that fast? He had left nearly half a year's worth of food in the underground storage back then. And it had only been a little over a month. What's going on? Didn't Uzumaki Kamaki say there was half a year's worth of food stored? Uzumaki Jun frowned. Was someone stealing supplies? Yes, under normal circumstances, it should have lasted half a year, Uzumaki Hibiki said helplessly. But that was based on 2 meals a day. Due to physical exertion and chakra consumption, everyone's food intake has increased. Especially among our clansmen. Uzumaki Jun immediately understood. The tremendous vitality and chakra came with clear benefits, but not without cost. For instance, short tempers, impulsive thinking, and enormous appetites. Especially recently, with everyone so busy and ninja participating in labor to bridge the gap between themselves and civilians. Working hard naturally led to bigger appetites. Should we reduce their rations? Uzumaki Hibiki suggested. Sigh. Uzumaki Jun sighed. It's fine. Gato should be returning in the next couple of days. Lord Jun, Lord Gato has returned. Chapter 65, Want My Treasure? In the forest. Kakuzu leaned against a tree, frowning as he looked at the letter in his hand, muttering to himself, what exactly do the Uzunin want? Regarding the Uzunin finding him through to Kirigakur, Kakuzu was truly speechless. It had been decades since he defected from the village. Damn it, they actually used Kirigakur to contact him. Did they want to watch him slaughter all the Taki-nin? Fortunately, they were just there to deliver the letter. They handed it over and ran. Otherwise... Hat. Kakuzu rubbed his forehead, staring at the letter the Uzunin had thrown at him. It was giving him a headache. The letter read. Uzumaki Finance Manager Recruitment Notice. What did this mean? He was completely baffled. What did it mean by hiring him as Uzumaki financial manager with salary and benefits to be discussed in person? What was Uzumaki trying to do? Were they trying to recruit him? Don't joke around. The entire Shinobi world knew Uzumaki was about to fall. What was the point of inviting him now? Did they want Kakuzu to fight for Uzumaki? That was impossible. He was a powerhouse who had fought against the god of Shinobi. A small country like this wanted to recruit him? Were they dreaming? He shook his head with a cold smile. Uzumaki had probably been sold out by Konaha, leaving the village with few strong shinobi. Now they were trying to recruit outsiders to fill the gaps, but who would go? Kakuzu looked at the recruitment notice. Going to Uzumaki now was practically suicide. Did they think hiring a few Jonin would solve anything? Don't joke around. Uzumaki fate was already sealed. A village without a cage-level shinobi can only survive in the cracks. Kakuzu clenched the recruitment notice in his hand, staring at the sky. The weather today was so cold. Back then, for the sake of the village's survival, he, a mere Jonin, had accepted the village's orders and tried to fight the god of shinobi. But he wasn't afraid, because it was all for the village. He had thought that after his death, he would be remembered as a hero. But who would have thought? The village leader, out of fear, would sell him out? What kind of leadership was that? The moment things looked bad, they washed their hands of it, claiming it had nothing to do with them, that it was all the subordinates acting on their own. If they wanted to do that, fine, but at least compensate him in secret. Instead, they gave nothing, slandered him, and expected him to sacrifice himself for the village. Were they dreaming? So Kakuzu killed all those brainless leaders, took his rightful compensation, and went solo. Though the funds were a bit lacking. Now, as a freelancer, how could he just sell himself to any random place? Even if he were to join someone, as a powerhouse who had fought the god of shinobi, was this the kind of small-time organization that could recruit him? Kakuzu smirked coldly and continued reading the recruitment notice. He wanted to see what confidence Uzumaki had to think they could hire him. To send a Jonin just to recruit someone when the country was about to fall hat. What a huge cost. And by now, Uzumaki was probably already finished. His eyes scanned further down the notice. Manage all of Uzumaki finances. Kakuzu froze. All finances. Actually, small countries had their advantages. For example, the Uzumaki clan were all fools. Kakuzu stroked his chin, thinking, maybe he should go take a look. If Uzumaki was destroyed by then as the finance manager, he had a duty to recover the country's assets. If it wasn't destroyed, why not take the job? After all, this was all money. Uzumaki Jun looked at Gato, who had been escorted back by the Uzunin, and said, "How did it go?" "It's done." Gato nodded solemnly. Most of it was exchanged for food, and a small portion for clothing. "Good, you've worked hard." Uzumaki Jun felt relieved and smiled. "No, it's nothing." Gato shook his head. "If I hadn't met you back then, I probably wouldn't be alive today. Actually, if you hadn't met me, you might have become a shipping tycoon in the shinobi world in the future." But Uzumaki Jun didn't say that out loud. Since the man was grateful, that was fine. He nodded solemnly and said, "It was just fate." "Ah." Gato sighed. "The situation outside isn't great either. Refugees everywhere, corpses not even covered by the snow. Hunger and cold plague the shinobi world. Wailing and crying everywhere." Gato glanced at the hard-working citizens of Uzumaki and smiled. "Uzumaki is still the best." Hearing Gato's words, Uzumaki Jun fell silent. There wasn't much he could do for those people now. He could only sigh and say, "It'll get better. The future will be better." Perhaps in a few days, he would have to prepare to go to Konaha. "By the way, I might need you to go out again." Uzumaki Jun frowned. This amount of food might not be enough. You see, the Uzumaki clan were all big eaters. However, Gato didn't understand. This time, he had prepared enough food for 400,000 people to last through the winter. How could it not be enough? Had the population increased that much? Otherwise, why would they be short on food? "You'll find out later," Uzumaki Jun said helplessly. "It's almost lunchtime. You'll see then that this amount of food is nowhere near enough." Hearing Uzumaki Jun's words, Gato frowned and said seriously, "But we sold too much salt this time. It's already drawn attention." "Ah." Uzumaki Jun sighed. He had expected this. Even though Gato had split the sales across multiple villages and purchased supplies separately, if someone was paying attention, there was no way to hide it. But this time, "We don't need to sell more salt," Uzumaki Jun said. "We made a fortune a few days ago. That should be enough." He then had Uzumaki Hibiki bring out the silver delivered by Kirigakur. To be fair, as one of the 5 great shinobi villages, Kirigakur's credibility was solid. They said 3 days, and not a single day late. The only thing was that the ninja delivering the money had a sour face. He almost got jumped by the Uzunin. Since Uzushiagaku's finance manager hadn't arrived yet, the finances were temporarily handled by Uzumaki Hibiki. If Kakuzu didn't show up, Uzushiagakur would have to train someone themselves. This money. Gato stared in shock at the pile of silver. It was even more than what he had earned from selling salt. Where did it come from? If he remembered correctly, Uzushiagakur's treasury had been empty for a while. There was no way they could pull out this much money. And the war had just ended not long ago. How did they make this fortune? Kirigakur sent it. Uzumaki Jun gave a rough explanation and left it at that. There was no need to go into detail. It was better to leave Kirigakur some face. After all, if nothing unexpected happened, Yuki Kioi would become the next Mizukage. Ah! He had worked so hard to help Yuki Kioi secure the position. Would the man be grateful after rising to power? Just as Uzumaki Jun was lost in thought. Lunch is ready. Chapter 66, Lord Mito is about to. The big cafeteria was managed by a group of ants from the land of whirlpools, or people who couldn't handle heavy labor. Since the current policy was communal dining, everyone, unless under special circumstances, had their own assigned work. Seeing that it was already time for lunch, everyone put down their tasks, grabbed some snow to rub their hands clean, and then walked to their respective seats with smiles on their faces. Everything was orderly, without any chaos. Uzumaki Jun observed this scene and nodded in satisfaction. It seemed that after a few days, they had already adapted. He led Gato to his seat. To set an example, Jun did not prepare any special meals for himself. At his table sat mostly the management team, such as Kamaki, Kai, and Hibiki. They always appeared at mealtime, and of course, Uzumaki Kushina was also at this table. Have there been any issues recently? Jun served Kushina a portion of food, then took his own and asked the others. As long as the tools are sufficient, there shouldn't be any problems, said the ninja in charge of logging. But most people still don't have axes or saws, so progress is slow. There was nothing he could do about that. Jun simply ignored him. His body was still young, and he couldn't handle such labor-intensive work. What if he wore himself out? If he overexerted himself at such a young age? His health was more important. On my side, there are too few Earth-style ninjas, said the ninja in charge of building houses, sounding helpless. We can only build a few dozen houses a day. For the population of the land of whirlpools, this was a drop in the bucket. Gato brought back some tents and clothes. We'll distribute them later, which should solve part of the problem, Jun sighed. There's no other way. The land of whirlpools has too few ninjas. Even with shadow clones, where one person could function as an entire work team, it would still waste chakra. Unless they built houses using conventional methods without ninjutsu, shadow clones would be useless. But under the current circumstances, the weather didn't allow it. Without the ability to fire clay or bricks, how else could they build houses without ninjutsu? As for me, the food supply has been decreasing due to the weather, Kai said worriedly. The prey in the land of whirlpools had almost been hunted to extinction. As for fish, it was too cold. Ordinary people couldn't possibly go fishing in the sea. Jun frowned as he considered this problem. He had thought about it for a long time, but without ships, fishing in the sea during winter was impossible. However, if they used lakes, they could cast nets to catch fish. Stop fishing in the sea, Jun said, furrowing his brows. From now on, focus on fishing in the lakes. If they had lightning-style ninjas, fishing in lakes would be easier, but the Uzumaki clan, unless they had mixed heritage with lightning affinity, they simply didn't have any. As for mastering lightning nature transformation, aside from him, who could instantly acquire it through the system, it was unrealistic for others. System, is there a method for net fishing in winter? Yes. 100,000 points. That price? Fine, I'll exchange it. Jun summoned a scroll, actually obtained from the system, and handed it to Kai. Try fishing with this method. As for the nets, the land of whirlpools already has some. We can modify them to fit. They still needed meat, or else their physical development would suffer. Kai, though puzzled, nodded and accepted it. He knew that the method for making charcoal had also been provided by Lord Jun, so this was probably similar. He would study it and ask if he didn't understand. As for food, Jun looked at the head of the food department, who was staring at him eagerly, and sighed. Gato brought some back. We shouldn't run short for now. The head of the food department nodded in satisfaction. Then, Jun turned to Gato with a helpless expression. Now you see, right? This amount of food isn't nearly enough. Gato nodded solemnly, his lips twitching. He hadn't realized it before, but now it was clear. The Uzumaki clan were all big eaters. As for Kushina, she sat quietly next to Jun, occasionally taking a bite of rice, watching them discuss matters with curiosity. She didn't interrupt or disturb their work. As for charcoal, they weren't short on charcoal for now, but the logging speed in the land of whirlpools was too fast. If this continued, the land might suffer severe erosion before winter even ended. Back then, the first Kazekage had been shameless, not only refusing to trade but also demanding money. If only Hashirama had been sent to plant trees, the desertification of Tsunagakur would have been mitigated by now. System: how much reputation is needed for a wood-style Kekii Genkai? 10 million. WTF? That expensive? Magnet release only costs 3 million. Kekii Genkai vary in value. As expected, the title of God of Shinobi came with a hefty price tag. He couldn't afford it. He'd have to think of another way later. For now, Jun could only shelve the idea. He sighed inwardly. Population, population. The land of whirlpools needed a much larger population. Just produce enough charcoal to last through winter, Jun said helplessly. He had to remind them, or else they might go overboard. After that, we'll switch to producing something else. If charcoal couldn't generate enough heat, they wouldn't use it. They'd rely on ninjas instead. Though it would be exhausting, they didn't need much right now. Gaining experience would be beneficial. Besides, it would be useful for making windows later, which they could sell to nobles from other countries. They'd probably like that. Not only would it benefit the nobles, but it would also generate tax revenue. A win-win. And if the land of whirlpools wanted to become a trade hub, it needed its own specialties. Understood. Though he didn't know what Lord Jun planned to switch to, he nodded in agreement. Let's eat now. Jun said. After working for so long, he was hungry. Yes. Konaha. A 7-year-old cage level. Hiruzen Sarutobi puffed on his pipe as he read the intelligence report. The part about Hisoki Gengetsu accusing Konaha of deception and demanding compensation was ignored. The man was already dead. What compensation? Were they dreaming? Besides, Konaha hadn't even sent reinforcements. This was entirely the Senju clan's doing. Even Lord Hashirama wasn't this strong at that age. Hiruzen sighed. If nothing went wrong, this boy would likely become the next god of Shinobi. We can't let him grow up. Dan said darkly. Should I? No. Hiruzen shook his head. He wanted to do the same, but he knows space-time ninjutsu. Catching him would be too troublesome. Humph. Dan snorted. Even with space-time ninjutsu, as long as we... What are you planning? Hiruzen frowned sharply. We're in peacetime now. Don't act recklessly. Those fools in Kirigakur are useless, Dan sneered, ignoring his old friend's words. How can trash like them call themselves one of the 5 great shinobi villages? Let's set this aside for now. The situation might not be as bad as we think, Hiruzen said, taking a drag from his pipe. Not that bad? Ha! Dan grinned viciously. Remember, Lady Mito is about to... Hiruzen exhaled heavily. I'll think of something. And what about the Senju clan? Hiruzen looked up at Dan silently. He knew what Dan was thinking, but... The Senju clan were the descendants of the first and second Hokage. He didn't want to go too far. But... Dan glared at him with a sinister expression. Shinobi who don't follow orders have no value. Chapter 67, Preparing to go to Konaha. Today's work is also done. Looking at the neatly arranged thousands of axes and saws in front of him, Uzumaki Jun sighed inwardly. He leaned against a spot and slumped down. To be honest, although repeatedly making tools like this was exhausting, his chakra control had improved. At the very least, he could now carve patterns onto the axes. After so many days, the tools produced should be enough now. Uzumaki Jun glanced at the tools in front of him. After so many days, the tools should be sufficient, since not everyone was focused on logging. Most people still had other tasks. As for Gato, he had gone out trading a few days ago. The other managers had already grown accustomed to their respective duties, and everything was progressing steadily. And his mother? She had already taken some ninjas to provide basic ninja education for the children. Of course, among them were also orphans left behind by the war. Uzumaki Jun had decided internally that his mother would be Kirigakur's first Minister of Education. If possible, she could also serve as the director of the orphanage. He would have to ask her about it later. And his father? He had happily become a small supervisor, leading a group of civilians and ninjas in their work. He seemed quite enthusiastic about it. Currently, there were still too few medical ninjas. Even though some clan members possessed vast life force like Kyoko, very few Uzumaki clansmen were passionate about medical ninjutsu. Most preferred direct, hand-to-hand combat. I'll have to select a group from among the children later. Uzumaki Jun rubbed his forehead. The current medical ninjas in Uzumaki were already struggling to care for the nation's citizens, let alone the refugees that would come later. After all, these were people who had suffered disasters outside. There would definitely be many with health issues. The demand for medical ninjas would only grow. For now, he could only find some willing children and teach them basic first aid so they wouldn't be overwhelmed later. They've also learned glass making and winter fishing techniques. Uzumaki Jun pondered. Winter fishing wasn't too bad. At first, people were unfamiliar with it and didn't know how to detect fish beneath the ice. But some Uzumaki clansmen possessed exceptionally strong sensory abilities, making them essentially walking fish detectors. With a few sensory ninjas, they could return with full loads. Uzumaki Jun estimated that if they built large fishing boats and took sensory ninjas out to sea, the harvest would be even more impressive. They might even be able to sell fish and make a fortune. As for glass making, due to limited conditions, the output was still very low, and the products were ugly. I wonder if Gato can sell them to nobles. Uzumaki Jun stroked his chin thoughtfully. This time, Gato had taken some better-made samples with him. If they sold well, perhaps Uzumaki could have its own specialty product in the early stages. As for food, he had also exchanged for some earth cooking techniques, such as oil-splashed noodles, knife-shaved noodles, spicy oil noodles, dandan noodles, fried sauce noodles, basically, all noodle dishes. He wanted to see how well they would be received. If successful, he could promote culinary culture in the ninja world. The clan elders researching the conversion of ninjutsu into scrolls and reusable techniques had made no progress so far. They were going crazy. A few days ago, they had asked him about his magnet release, shocked that someone so young could synthesize a Kekii Genkai. They wanted to upgrade Uzumaki by adding magnet release to their vast chakra reserves. They practically went through every Uzumaki girl around his age. Uzumaki Jun was stunned. These elders had lost their minds. To make the Uzumaki clan stronger, they would do anything. They even considered kidnapping Kekii Genkai users from other villages. This could very well start the Second Shinobi World War from Uzumaki. If his mother hadn't knocked some sense into them with her fists, they might still be fantasizing about the Uzumaki clan's glorious future. Wanting Kekii Genkai wasn't that hard, was it? Once he expanded the population and pulled off some clever maneuvers, making them all admire him, wouldn't any Kekii Genkai be possible? Why resort to kidnapping? Moreover, sustainable development in the ninja world required Kekii Genkai. Otherwise, resources would eventually run out. Only Kekii Genkai could ensure the ninja world's unscientific yet sustainable development. For example, with glass making. If they had crystal release, wouldn't things be much easier? So, in the future, the topic of how are Kekii Genkai created would definitely be included in scientific research. But for now, there wasn't even a scientific research institute. What was there to study? Of course, seeing the elders staying up late researching, Uzumaki Jun couldn't bear it. He gave them a hint, perhaps they didn't need to engrave ninjutsu on paper. For example, engraving them on metal or tools might work. Future scientific ninja tools worked like that, didn't they? Also, the improved Flying Thunder God Kunao also had seals engraved on them, right? Imagine if they wanted a gas stove. They could create a gas stove tool then engrave fire nature ninjutsu seals and temperature adjustment seals. As for the gas, if civilians lacked chakra, they could just buy chakra scrolls once they ran out. This was another path to wealth. Selling energy was quite profitable. The only trouble was simplifying the ninjutsu patterns. Future Minato might have some insights, since he was the one who changed the Flying Thunder God seal into a love of the shinobi. For now, let the elders research it first. Hadn't they already started developing a researcher's spirit? They had even learned to stay up late studying technology. Now, domestically, since he no longer needed to exhaust himself managing everything, things had gradually become easier. The only issue was that after using the gold dust axe and gold dust saw techniques, he always felt drained and in need of replenishment. Hibiki, the tools are ready. Come and take them. Uzumaki Jun called out helplessly. Shunshin. Uzumaki Hibiki appeared instantly and said respectfully, "Thank you for your hard work, Lord Jun." "It's nothing." Uzumaki Jun waved his hand. "Where's Kushina? Why hadn't he seen her today? She usually followed him around." "The young lady went to the queen's place," Uzumaki Hibiki replied. "What's she doing there?" Uzumaki Jun asked curiously. That place was full of teachers and young children. Was she looking for playmates her age? "The young lady is helping the queen take care of the children." "Hey!" Uzumaki Jun was stunned. He rubbed his chin and muttered, "Is she planning to contribute to Kirigakur? But this girl, would she end up becoming the academy's top bully?" Uzumaki Hibiki hesitated, wanting to say something, but ultimately held back. He sighed inwardly, thinking, she's just unhappy that the queen has been getting close to a girl named Uzumaki Kyoko lately. But considering this was Lord Jun's family matter, it was better not to interfere, or else the young lady and the queen's fists would be hard to deal with. If he spoke carelessly, he might spend the winter bedridden. "Inform the clan leader and the elder to come to the meeting room later," Uzumaki Jun stretched and said. "It's time to go to Konaha." Since everything was ready, it was time to recruit people. Taking advantage of the post-war period, recruiting more people would be beneficial. Besides, he also wanted to visit Uzumaki Mito, the legendary woman of Konaha. She probably wouldn't last much longer. The question was, without an Uzumaki, what would happen to the Nine Tails? Use it as a Pokemon? That would be truly tragic. Without Naruto's talk no jutsu to tame it, the first thing the Nine Tails would do after breaking free would be to destroy Konaha. As for why he was going to Konaha instead of other villages to recruit refugees, wasn't it obvious? Konaha naturally attracted talented refugees. The chances of encountering geniuses in Konaha were higher. Yes. Uzumaki Hibiki replied respectfully. Chapter 68, This kind of life is really nice. Night. Because Gato brought back a batch of tents, the citizens of the land of whirlpools rearranged their living arrangements again. The elderly lived in stone houses, while the younger ones moved into tents. However, since there still weren't enough places to live, every tent was packed tightly. As a result, it was very easy for people to catch colds. Uzumaki Kamaki continued his routine patrol of his assigned area. Everyone was exhausted from a day of labor, so the moment they lay down, they closed their eyes and fell asleep. Satisfied, he looked around the tent. He didn't understand why Jun-sama had ordered them to patrol and take care of these civilians, making sure they didn't get cold, but as long as it was an order, as a shinobi, he would carry it out seriously. Noticing a young boy who had kicked off his blanket, Uzumaki Kamaki rubbed his temples but still walked over to tuck him back in. He muttered quietly, "No wonder there have been so many colds lately. Without a shinobi's physique, yet still kicking off blankets. Wasn't this just asking for trouble?" Recently, the medical nin had been working non-stop because of all the cold cases and had started warning them to pay attention to keeping the civilians warm. After scanning the entire tent to make sure everyone was properly covered, Uzumaki Kamaki tossed a few more pieces of charcoal into the stove to keep it burning through the night. This way, they shouldn't catch a chill at night. But he also had to be mindful of what Jun-sama had warned about carbon monoxide poisoning and suffocation. These things would be evaluated periodically, and if he lost in the assessment, he'd be too ashamed to face his comrades. So, Uzumaki Kamaki also checked that the stove's ventilation wasn't blocked before carefully stepping out. He didn't notice that one boy wasn't asleep at all and had been secretly watching the whole scene. Finally, as Uzumaki Kamaki left, the boy smiled slightly and whispered to himself, "This feeling is really nice." "Shin? What's wrong?" A companion next to him seemed disturbed by his movements and rubbed his eyes. "Why aren't you asleep yet? And be careful when you turn over, it's so cold." Sorry. Shin quickly pulled the blanket tighter and asked curiously, "What do you think of this kind of life?" "It's great." His companion yawned and replied impatiently, 3 meals a day, with meat too. "I've never experienced anything like this before." "Do you have any goals?" "Goals?" The companion turned away irritably. "No. Right now, I just want to sleep." Seeing his companion ignore him, Shin sighed helplessly, pulled the blanket over his head, and muttered quietly, "My goal is to become a supervisor. Then I'll make sure you don't get any food. Ignoring me like that." "Humph." "Kamaki." Seeing that it was Kamaki who had come out, Uzumaki Kai yawned and asked, "How's everything on your side?" "Everything's fine." Uzumaki Kamaki nodded. "You look exhausted." "Of course I'm exhausted." Uzumaki Kai rubbed his arms. Fishing is such a hassle. Even though Jun-sama's method had increased their harvest several times over, there still weren't enough people. Seeing Kai's state, Uzumaki Kamaki shook his head and chuckled. "I heard there have been spies from other villages lately. Nothing serious happened, right? That's STA's responsibility." Uzumaki Kai walked alongside Kamaki as he spoke. "We've caught several recently, from every village. They all had their chakras sealed and were thrown out. What a waste." Uzumaki Kamaki sighed. "If we had that many shinobi, our workload would be lighter." "That's true." Uzumaki Kai agreed. Jun-sama also said it was a waste, but he's worried other villages might use it as an excuse to cause trouble. "For now, we can only throw them out. The land of whirlpools can't afford another war right now." Sigh. Uzumaki Kamaki looked up at the night sky of the land of whirlpools and murmured, "I hope the land of whirlpools can grow stronger." "Of course it will." Kai yawned again. "Jun-sama is going to Konaha tomorrow. Are you going?" "Jun-sama wants me to stay and watch over the land of whirlpools, in case anyone causes trouble." Uzumaki Kamaki shook his head helplessly. "Are you going with him?" "Yet." Kai replied. "The clan elders insisted I protect Jun-sama." Hearing this, Kamaki fell silent for a moment before finally saying, "Then everything is in your hands." "Of course." Uzumaki Kai yawned again, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Kirigakur. Has the Jinkraki project started yet?" Yuki Kioi asked, his eyes narrowed. "This is the village's most important mission right now. It's already underway." A Jonin nodded. "But so far, there haven't been any successes. Without the Uzumaki clan's chakra, becoming a Jinkraki isn't easy." Yuki Kioi sighed. "Take it slow. Have the sealing team find a method that suits Kirigakur. The sealing techniques from the land of whirlpools might not be suitable for us. If it still doesn't work, then we'll really have no choice but to." "Yes." The Jonin bowed respectfully and hesitated, as if he had something else to say. "Is there anything else to report?" Yuki Kioi frowned. Though his eyes were always narrowed, he wasn't blind. If there was something to say, then say it. Did he intend to hide things from the village? The lower ranks have been complaining about the Jinkraki project because the Jonin carefully watched the Mizuki's expression. So many children have died. Hearing this, Yuki Kioi fell silent before finally sighing. "This is a necessary sacrifice for success. Look among the refugees outside the village for those with shinobi potential. If there are any." He didn't finish his sentence. "Yes." The Jonin understood immediately. If there were complaints within the village, then they would search outside. Though it was cruel, for the sake of the village's future, it was worth it. "Have the other villages made any moves recently?" Yuki Kioi asked. Though he had achieved his dream of becoming village leader, the losses from the previous regime had left the village in a weakened state. He couldn't afford to fall behind during this recovery period. According to intelligence reports, the other villages have also obtained sealing techniques from the land of whirlpools. The Jonin replied. They've all started experimenting with their own Jinkraki projects. As for the land of whirlpools, there's nothing unusual. They're still cutting trees and building houses. It seemed the land of whirlpools wasn't doing well after the war either. After a moment of silence, Yuki Kioi waved his hand. Continue gathering intelligence. You're dismissed for now. Yes. The Jonin bowed. Mizukage-sama, rest early. Chapter 69, Hokage Figurines. Early morning. It was still a cold day today. Uzumaki Jun watched as everyone gradually came out to prepare for work, especially the slogans hanging on the trees and tents. Labor is glorious, creation is great. If you don't work today, you'll go hungry tomorrow. Labor warms the body, empty words chill the heart. And other banners. He nodded in satisfaction. Indeed, it looked much better this way. Not only did this motivate the citizens to work, but it also helped promote literacy education. Why not do it? Especially seeing each team leader leading their members in shouting slogans every morning, the feeling. It was very energizing. If a military academy were to be established later, they could also hang. Shed blood and sweat, but not tears. Lose skin and flesh, but not morale. And other slogans inside the military academy. Gradually changing everything into something he was familiar with would also be very good. After everyone finished shouting the slogans, they enthusiastically followed their team leaders to their designated eating spots. Uzumaki Jun also planned to set off for Konaha after breakfast. Because it was winter, the roads were not easy to travel, so he decided to leave early. Moreover, Kirigakur only had 3 large ships left by Gato. While there wouldn't be any issues going, if too many people were brought back, it might become troublesome. Thus, Uzumaki Jun planned to transport the refugees in several batches. At the same time, he arranged for the Uzunin and Uzushiagakur to prepare for receiving the refugees. Of course, this wouldn't be done only after returning. Instead, it would begin on the way to Konaha. That was why he planned to bring more ninjas, having them make multiple trips to bring the refugees to Uzushiagakur via the nearby waters. As for him, after handling matters, he would directly take Kai to Konaha, saving a lot of time. Uzushiagakur is still lacking too many things. Uzumaki Jun lamented inwardly. As an island nation, even their ships were bought from others. It was truly shameful, so the development of the shipbuilding industry was also crucial. Moreover, they needed to bring quite a few things on this trip, such as food, coal, and glass. No, crystal. It should be called crystal. That name sounded much more high class. The food and coal were for the refugees while waiting, to give them some hope. If you didn't offer anything, how could they trust you? Especially food. During disasters, it was the most reassuring thing. As for the glass crystal, it was for building relationships, bribing Konaha, and borrowing land near Uzushiagakur from the Hokage to settle the refugees. Uzumaki Jun believed that with these 3 statues, Hiruzen Sarutobi would happily agree, right? After all, these were crystal statues of the first, second, and third Hokage. Especially the third. Bigger and more majestic. This was a crystal sculpture made by Uzushiagakur's chief sculptor. If it weren't for Hibiki mentioning it, Uzumaki Jun wouldn't have known even after living here for so many years that Uzushiagakur had a master sculptor. After finding him and reviewing his works, Uzumaki Jun officially appointed him as Uzushiagakur's chief sculptor and even shared some sculpting techniques from Earth with him. Perhaps in the future, selling figurines no, sculptures could also become a lucrative business. Transporting the refugees would likely require multiple trips. If too many people were gathered in the Land of Fire under the guidance of Uzunin, who knew what the Hokage might think? Thus, it was better to clarify everything up front. Otherwise, what if they found an excuse to cause trouble? Uzushiagakur was a civilized nation. A nation that understood civility and politeness. They wouldn't randomly beat people up. Even if they did, there would be a reason. So, it was better to lay everything out clearly. If the darkness of the shinobi insisted on stirring trouble, then any deaths afterward wouldn't be Uzushiagakur's fault. Because they had already explained everything. Lord Jun, everything is ready, Uzumaki Kai said respectfully. This time, he was serving as Lord Jun's guard to Konaha. If things took a turn for the worse, he would cover Lord Jun's retreat. Though he also thought that someone as strong as Lord Jun, who could use space-time ninjutsu, wouldn't need his protection, but when it came to matters concerning Lord Jun, utmost caution was necessary, because he was Uzushiagakur's hope. Good. Uzumaki Jun nodded and said, after breakfast, we'll set off. Also, do you remember what I said? If people are obedient, Uzumaki will accept them. If they cause trouble, Uzumaki won't take them in. Just let them fend for themselves. And tell the ninjas not to bully these refugees. Uzumaki Jun looked at Uzumaki Kai with a serious expression. There must be no accidents during the refugee recruitment process. Especially if there are ninjas among them, be extra cautious. Explain to them clearly that Uzumaki will seal their chakra for a period of time. If they don't do anything to harm Uzumaki, the seals will be lifted. Also, recruiting them doesn't mean they immediately become citizens of Uzumaki. Their treatment will be different from that of Uzumaki citizens, but they must not be left hungry or cold. Make sure the ninjas understand the balance. They had to maintain the advantages of Uzumaki citizens while giving the refugees some hope, so they would work diligently. Understood. Uzumaki Kai nodded solemnly. He understood the gravity of the situation. I will remind the ninjas again. Also, don't let the refugees gather together. Separate them and integrate them among the citizens. Understood. Satisfied with Uzumaki Kai's understanding, Uzumaki Jun began eating his breakfast. Originally, he had planned to take Kushina along. Perhaps she might gain something from Mito Uzumaki. But Kushina mysteriously refused. What was she doing with his mother? She looked so secretive about it. I'll leave everything in Uzumaki to the clan leader. Uzumaki Jun rubbed his forehead and said to the clan leader. You must ensure nothing happens to Uzumaki. If any ninjas cause trouble, just kill them. Uzumaki Jun's expression turned fierce. Only by ensuring Uzumaki stability can everything else proceed. I understand. The clan leader nodded, then said worriedly, are you sure you don't want to bring more people? After all, Konaha. Don't worry. Uzumaki Jun shook his head. Nothing will happen to me. No one can harm me. If he brought too many people, would he have to flee or protect them if something happened? It would be too troublesome. Hearing Uzumaki Jun's words, the clan leader also felt it made sense. After all, he had just fought a tailed beast. Unless something unexpected happened, who could possibly defeat him? With that in mind, he agreed and said with a smile, I'll keep an eye on everything in Uzumaki. Your father will also help. After all, he was once the daimyo of Uzumaki. He knew that. He also knew that Uzumaki hadn't progressed at all under his father's rule. And wasn't his father currently enjoying his managerial duties? These past few days, he had been eating and sleeping with them. If his mother didn't know, she might really think his father had found a second wife. Uzumaki Jun nodded. As long as no large forces invaded, Uzumaki shouldn't have any problems. It was just. Given the current limitations, even opening factories was impossible. He hoped the elders would make some progress by the time he returned. If not, he would have to take the old industrialization path first. Chapter 70, Uzumaki Company officially recruits talent. Oh, Lord Madara, you are awake. An old man with white hair and a pale face struggled to raise his right hand to his mouth, cough cough. Then, slowly opened his muddy eyes, staring at the entirely white figure in front of him with a spiral-patterned body. Toby. Madara looked at his increasingly aged body, now even movement was becoming difficult. After a moment of silence, his hoarse voice spoke, how long have I been asleep? Oh, Lord Madara, let me see, let me see. Toby jumped onto a wall upon hearing Uchiha Madara's words, cheerfully saying, 1 scratch mark equals 1 year, let me count how many there are. Oh, Lord Madara, there are 100 marks. Madara fell silent again after hearing Toby's words, finally sighing and saying, has it been 100 years already? How is Uzumaki now? Uzumaki. Toby paused, then said, nothing much. They have a 7-year-old cage level who made Kirigakur call him daddy. Lord Madara, should we recruit? Oh, Lord Madara, I made a mistake earlier, this is the record of how long you've slept. Toby suddenly spoke carefully, that was just the number of times I took a poop. Here, Lord Madara has only slept for 3 years. Uchiha Madara rubbed his forehead with a headache, saying, where is my will embodiment? This idiot. He didn't want to see him right now. Otherwise, his aged body might just give out. Oh, Mr. Zetsu. Toby ignored Madara's distress and directly said, he seems to be monitoring Uzumaki. Uzumaki hasn't been destroyed. Madara said wistfully upon hearing Tobi's words, a 7-year-old cage level. Back then, even Hashirama and I were not this strong. Lord Madara, should we? Tobi made a throat-slitting gesture, saying, kill him. Can you defeat him? Madara glanced sideways and said flatly. Tobi fell silent for a moment, then awkwardly laughed. Mr. Zetsu might have a way. Madara decided to ignore him and said helplessly, tell Zetsu to quickly find someone capable of bearing my eyes. As for the rest, don't bother for now. That 7-year-old child. If he doesn't comply, find a chance to kill him. The ninja world absolutely cannot have any unexpected variables. Yes, Lord Madara. After the idiot left, Uchiha Madara opened his weary eyes and murmured, I wonder how much longer I can hold on. Back then, the alliance between Hashirama and the Uzumaki clan, now even Konaha has forgotten. Time truly erodes everything. Whether it's people or bonds. Hashirama. I will prove to you that my method is the right one. The ninja world is already rotten. Only by starting anew can true peace be achieved. Achoo, achoo. Uzumaki Jun wrapped himself in several layers of blankets, lying on the deck while sneezing. He rubbed his nose and muttered, is Mom thinking about me? BRR. This weather is really cold. Lord Jun, we're almost there. Uzumaki Kai stood beside Jun and said respectfully. Almost there. Uzumaki Jun stood up and stretched, saying, tell everyone to tidy up their appearance. They must look spirited. It was faster than expected. No wonder the poor land of waves wanted to build a bridge to Konaha back then. Probably because the route was short, cheap, and saved money. Yes. Uzumaki Kai nodded. And the recruitment sign I made, remember to carry it out too, Uzumaki Jun said. We're here to recruit, not to kidnap children. Tell them to smile more. Hearing Lord Jun's words, Kai fell silent for a moment but still nodded. The recruitment sign Lord Jun made was so embarrassing, it was too cringy, and did Lord Jun think the refugees could read? But since it was Lord Jun's order, they would still carry it out earnestly. Good. Uzumaki Jun nodded and said, after disembarking, find a spot to start cooking porridge and set up a relief station to wait for refugees. At the same time, send out ninjas to patrol the surroundings and direct refugees to the relief station. And the medical ninjas, tell them to work harder. Yes. Uzumaki Kai nodded, then hesitated, and said, what if Konaha's ninjas? Uzumaki Jun thought for a moment and said, explain it to them clearly. We and Konaha share generations of friendship. We're here to share the burden of refugees within Konaha's borders. Generations of friendship. Uzumaki Kai was long used to Lord Jun saying this and nodded, understood. Whenever they wanted to exploit Konaha, Lord Jun would bring up this phrase. Though by now, Konaha probably wanted to kill the Uzumaki clan, especially after the Kirigakur incident. I'll make sure everyone stays cautious and avoids conflict with Konaha's ninjas. After all, Konaha had taken so much advantage over the years. Wasn't it time to get some payback? And Konaha couldn't possibly handle all the refugees, so Uzumaki was doing a good deed. Also, remember, troublemakers and those with criminal records are not to be taken. But give them some food and send them to Konaha. Uzumaki Jun thought for a moment and said, tell them Konaha is a place full of love and harmony. They will be welcomed there. Uzumaki Kai was speechless upon hearing Lord Jun's words and cautiously said, is this really okay? It's fine. We're helping Konaha recruit talent. After all, troublemakers are usually capable people. What if they're not capable? Konaha will deal with them. Yes. In the end, Uzumaki Kai still nodded. They would just direct people to Konaha. Whether Konaha accepted them or not. What did it have to do with Uzumaki? Just then. Lord Jun, Konaha's ninjas have been spotted. A Jonin ran over and reported respectfully. A 7-year-old cage level. Uzumaki Mito held the intelligence report in her hand and smiled faintly, murmuring, it seems Uzumaki will not perish. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, she had always wanted to help Uzumaki, but she was already old. Now that Uzumaki had a cage level, and a 7-year-old one at that, she believed Uzumaki would grow strong. It's been so many years. Uzumaki Mito shook her head, her face filled with nostalgia. I wonder how Hashirama is doing down there? That fool. He must be doing well. He must have made many new friends again. Because that's the kind of person he is. Someone who naturally draws others to him, who makes people believe in him. And it's been so long since I last saw Hashirama. I wonder if he misses me. Uzumaki Mito smiled, her eyes filled with longing, murmuring, Konaha, I've been watching over it for you, but I might be coming to see you soon, Hashirama. Just then, Mito's attendant interrupted her reminiscence, saying respectfully, Lady Mito, the Hokage requests an audience. Uzumaki Mito fell silent for a moment, then sighed and said helplessly, let Saru in. Chapter 71, Do you want to dance? Uzumaki Jun had no idea that he had already caught the attention of old man Madara. If he had known, he would have immediately nodded in agreement, putting on an expression that said, I've decided to follow you. When Madara's subordinate later created the Akatsuki, he could just have the uniforms and work badges delivered directly to him. The only question was, if Nagato didn't end up wandering to Omegakure, who would become the crime boss there? Would it be Tobi? That would truly be a sad thing. As for why he was so cautious? Well, Madara was the kind of ruthless man who could remain completely calm while facing a charge of tens of thousands of people, casually dancing the whole time. Every time he caught someone, he would say, do you want to dance? You can dance too. You think you can dance? An old man who dances is not to be trifled with. In any case, he and Madara had no conflicts in the early stages. As for the later stages, by the time he had grown strong enough, why would he care about Madara? At that point, it might be Uzumaki Jun saving the ninja world, while Madara would likely have been half-crippled by Zetsu's schemes. As for the Sage of Six Paths, he'd probably be utterly confused. Hadn't he worked so hard to stay alive just to give his sons their power UPS, letting Naruto and Sasuke lead the heroes of the ninja world to guide the future? But now, what was the meaning of this? Just who was this Uzumaki Jun? At that point, the Sage of Six Paths might appear and ask him not to interfere, letting his sons gain some reputation and lead the ninja world toward the future. But by then, who would care about such nonsense? The socialist path he wanted to take was completely different from the shinobi path that the ninja class wanted to follow. Sooner or later, a class struggle would likely break out. But all reactionaries are paper tigers. Under the tide of socialism, they would be utterly obliterated. Uzumaki Jun had the confidence and the ability to forge a socialist path unique to the ninja world. After all, not only had he been steeped in over 20 years of red ideology, but he also had the system as his cheat. While the system might not be good for much else, it was excellent at printing books. After Uzumaki Jun disembarked, the Konaha in charge stepped forward and said, Lord Jun. Narashikaso had already received intelligence from the Hokage. The red-haired child before him was the one who had led Uzumaki to victory, a 7-year-old cage-level ninja. Truly terrifying, Narashikaso thought to himself. Uzumaki Jun nodded. You are Narashikaso, the person in charge this time, Narashikaso replied. Figures. Uzumaki Jun looked at Narashikaso with an expressionless face. The moment he saw him, an aura of lethargy washed over him. It was unmistakably a member of the Nara clan, the medicinal tycoons of Konaha, a family that had raised deer for generations, mainly selling deer antlers. Back on Earth, they would have been shut down by the authorities multiple times. Will you be heading to Konaha now, or? Narashikaso asked lazily. The war was over, yet the higher UPS still had him stationed at the border. What a hassle. Now he could finally return. No, we'll go in a few days, Uzumaki Jun shook his head and smiled. We need to rent a place from the Land of Fire. Whoosh. Narashikaso immediately became serious upon hearing Uzumaki Jun's words. What did he want to rent land for? Was he planning to cause trouble? Don't be nervous, Uzumaki Jun smiled. The Uzumaki clan and Konaha have a bond of friendship spanning generations. We won't do anything to harm Konaha. Then you Narashikaso, of course, wouldn't be convinced by just a few words. He remained vigilant. What do you need the rented land for? As for the bond of friendship spanning generations between the Uzumaki clan and Konaha, he ignored that. The higher UPS in Konaha all knew that this was a joke. And as for Kirigakur, after being screwed over so badly, they must have realized it too. They were probably cursing Konaha for being ungrateful in their hearts. To recruit people, of course, Uzumaki Jun waved his hand, signaling the ninja below to bring up the recruitment sign. Kirigakur has suffered heavy losses in the war. There aren't many people left in the country. 9 out of 10 homes are empty. You have no idea how terrifying it is to go out at night. It's truly horrifying. Hearing Uzumaki Jun's words, Narashikaso rolled his eyes. Did he think Konaha was blind? Although the spies sent to Uzumaki had all been discovered, they had still brought back information. Heavy losses? Yeah, right. Who was he trying to fool? He glanced at the sign, which read: Uzumaki is currently hiring workers. Whether or not you have a special skill, as long as you come to Uzumaki, you will find your own worth. 1. Law-abiding, upright character, no criminal record preferred. 2. Those with special skills preferred. 3. Those who are literate preferred. Want to find your place? If you do, come to Uzumaki. Here, you will surely find your dreams. Note: food and lodging provided. Wages to be discussed in person. At the end was the Uzumaki clan's crest. Was he really here to recruit people? Seeing the words on the sign, Narashikaso was speechless. It was all laid out so clearly. I'll need to consult the Hokage about this, Narashikaso said after a moment's thought. But it'll probably be approved. After all, the Land of Fire currently had too many displaced people. If not handled properly, chaos could break out. If someone was willing to take them in, it would be a solution. But they still needed to be wary of Uzumaki schemes. Of course, Uzumaki Jun smiled. Uzumaki Kai, bring up our rental payment. Yes. Uzumaki Kai replied respectfully. Then, with a nervous expression, he carefully took the tightly wrapped, high-quality box from the people below and opened it with the reverence of a worshipper. Seeing the Uzumaki clan's expressions, Narashikaso grew curious. It seemed whatever was inside was extremely valuable. Then, the moment Uzumaki Kai opened it, the Konaha were stunned. This Narashikaso pointed at the crystal-clear statues in shock. The first Hokage, the second Hokage, the third Hokage. Seeing the Konaha awestruck expressions, Uzumaki Jun nodded in satisfaction. It seemed Uzumaki Kai had a real talent for acting. The guy already knew how glass was made, yet he could still put on such a convincing performance. Maybe he could transition Uzumaki Kai from being a ninja to an actor. After all, a secondary profession for ninjas was inevitable. This is glass discovered within Uzumaki borders, Uzumaki Jun said with a reluctant expression. It's extremely rare. I had my people pick out the most exquisite pieces and hired Uzumaki top sculptor to carefully craft these. The Konaha exchanged glances. Finally, Narashikaso sighed and said, "This is too valuable." "No, these were carved out of our admiration for the Hokage's contributions to the peace of the ninja world," Uzumaki Jun said with a look of reverence. "Especially Lord Hashirama and Lord Tobirama. They sacrificed so much for the peace of the ninja world. They deserve everyone's respect." Then why was the third Hokage's statue the biggest and most imposing? Narashikaso looked at the third Hokage's statue, opened his mouth, but ultimately said nothing. As a ninja, it was best not to be too curious. Matters of the higher UPS should be left to the higher UPS. The Nara clan's way of survival was to be as lazy as possible. "I'll have someone deliver your request and gifts to the Hokage. As for the result, it might take some time." "Of course." Uzumaki Jun's eyes lit up, and he smiled. It seemed the matter was settled. As for the rest. Chapter 72, They didn't send me any, I disagree. What do you all think? Sarutobi Hiruzen propped his chin with his hands, staring thoughtfully at the Konaha higher UPS before him, his tone grave. "Should we lease it to Uzumaki and allow them to take in refugees?" The meeting fell into silence as everyone pondered, seemingly wondering if Uzumaki had some ulterior motive. "I think it's feasible," Koharu Yudiden finally spoke, frowning. "There are too many refugees within the Land of Fire right now, and with the war just ended, refugees are scattered everywhere across the shinobi world. At the same time, according to reports from our shinobi below, most refugees are heading toward Konaha. Indeed, Konaha's peaceful policies in recent years were correct. Wasn't it clear that people were willing to come to Konaha instead of other villages? After all, Konaha upheld the ideals of Lord Hashirama and had always made significant contributions to the peace of the shinobi world, acting as the vanguard of peace. And Konaha simply cannot accommodate so many refugees. If these refugees gather in one place, chaos is bound to break out. Koharu Yudin looked at Hiruzen and said. If Kirigakur can take in some of them, it would benefit Konaha as well. I agree with Koharu, Homura Mito Kado nodded. Indeed, too many refugees will lead to unrest, and then it'll be hard to manage. In that case, seeing that everyone was in agreement, Hiruzen took a puff from his pipe and was about to give his approval when. No, I disagree, Danzo said coldly. Kirigakur definitely isn't just taking in refugees out of goodwill. They must have some hidden agenda. Order the shinobi below to immediately escort them to Konaha and not let them wander around the Land of Fire. Otherwise, something unexpected might happen in the Land of Fire. Damn it, they only sent gifts to Hiruzen? What about me, the darkness of Shinobi? Didn't I also silently dedicate myself to Konaha and make great contributions? Was it only Hiruzen who sacrificed for Konaha? I, the darkness of Shinobi, refuse to accept this. Though I operate in the shadows, I still work tirelessly for Konaha. So, unless I get a statue bigger and more impressive than Hiruzen's, one that depicts me, the darkness of Shinobi who silently serves Konaha, in a majestic Hokage robe and looking absolutely heroic, I will never agree. Don't forget, this is the child who led Kirigakur to victory, Danzo said solemnly. He's no ordinary child. They must have some scheme. No, as long as they're within the Land of Fire, we can detect any schemes immediately, Koharu Yudin countered, equally serious. But if the refugee issue isn't resolved, it will become a latent source of turmoil for the Land of Fire. Humph, Danzo scoffed dismissively. Just a bunch of commoners. If they dare cause trouble in the Land of Fire, then. Enough, Hiruzen sighed, cutting him off. Though he was known as the Shinobi Professor and the strongest Hokage. These were just titles given by others. He didn't believe he had surpassed the first or second Hokage. He was merely inheriting Lord Hashirama's ideals, striving to protect Konoha's peace and the peace of the shinobi world. So, everything he did was for the sake of the shinobi world. Danzo's methods would tarnish Konoha's reputation. As an ambassador of peace in the shinobi world, how could he allow himself to be tarnished? Danzo, your thinking is too extreme, Hiruzen set down his pipe. As shinobi, how can we casually harm civilians? Hi Hiruzen, Danzo, seeing that his old friend didn't understand him, felt deeply disappointed. Everything he did was for Konaha. You'll regret this, Hiruzen, Danzo sat back down, narrowing his eyes as he spoke calmly. Once things begin, there's no turning back. Konaha and the Uzumaki clan had long become enemies. What generational friendship! What a joke! Silence, Hiruzen slammed his pipe down, his voice sharp. The decision is made. We agree to temporarily lease the land adjacent to Kirigakur to them for 1 month. But during this time, Konaha shinobi must be allowed to observe. If any actions harmful to Konaha's interests are discovered, the land will be reclaimed immediately. Koharu Yudin, this matter is entrusted to you. Yes. You'll regret this. Seeing that Hiruzen had made his decision, Danzo snorted coldly, his face dark with anger as he stormed out. Ah, Hiruzen shook his head helplessly. Back then, he had asked his old friend to handle Konoha's dark affairs, but he never expected him to become the darkness itself. Now, Danzo had grown somewhat extreme. Fortunately, he still consulted Hiruzen on everything he did. Otherwise. Ah, Hiruzen sighed again. As his old friend and the one who had taken the blame for him all these years, he could only hope Danzo wouldn't sink further into darkness. Lord Danzo. As Danzo stepped out of the Hokage's office with a grim expression, a Root Anbu approached and bowed respectfully. Danzo coldly eyed the shinobi before him and said flatly, "Send Kazuhiro with a team of Jainin to monitor Kirigakur's shinobi. If they take any action harmful to the village, eliminate them immediately." Yes. Danzo glanced back at the Hokage tower and muttered, "Some things must be done by me, the darkness of shinobi. Come, take a look, take a look." Uzumaki Kai held up a paper megaphone crafted by Uzumaki Jun, smiling at the crowd of refugees before him, their eyes hollow, their bodies emaciated, their gazes blank. Kirigakur is hiring. As long as you. Though he felt embarrassed he, an elite Jainin, reduced to this? This should have been Gato's job. But this was Lord Jun's order. He had to obey. Suppressing his tears, Uzumaki Kai maintained his smile and continued, "Where is Kirigakur? Adjacent to the Land of Fire, just a 2-day journey for ordinary people. Moreover, Kirigakur is the ally of Konaha, the ambassador of peace in the Shinobi world. Our credibility is guaranteed. We would never treat anyone unfairly. The scenery here is beautiful, the land is rich in resources, the people are friendly. The leadership is kind and warm-hearted. And so, why hesitate? Sign up now." Uzumaki Jun watched Uzumaki Kai's sales pitch with satisfaction. His only flaw was being too reserved. If he could loosen up, the effect would be even better. But this wasn't bad either. At least the refugees, numbed by hardship, were beginning to show interest. As long as they were tempted, that was enough. The worst outcome would be if they remained indifferent. Jun subtly signaled to Kai. Understanding, Uzumaki Kai nodded and announced, "Starting now, Kirigakur will distribute free hot porridge and water. Everyone, please line up to receive your share." Sure enough. The mention of free food and water stirred the refugees into action, frantically rushing toward the direction Uzumaki Kai indicated. "Maintain order, maintain order. No pushing. Don't worry, Kirigakur has prepared plenty. There's enough for everyone. No cutting in line. Those who don't queue won't get any. Uzashionin, maintain order. Drag out anyone who doesn't line up." Under Uzumaki Kai's mix of threats and coaxing, the refugees gradually formed orderly lines under the guidance of the Uzashionin. It seems this harvest will be quite good. Uzumaki Jun watched the lined-up refugees with satisfaction. This was only the beginning. He glanced at the Konahanin nearby, who looked displeased at his use of Konaha's reputation to recruit people. Ha! Were they wrong? Not at all. The entire Shinobi world knew Konaha and the Uzumaki clan shared a generational bond. As Jun lost himself in thought, he felt someone tugging at his sleeve. Turning, he saw. Chapter 73, It was a stormy night. Who is this blonde kid? Uzumaki Jun looked down at the child tugging on his sleeve, a malnourished blonde boy with a skinny body and big, innocent eyes staring up at him. What's the meaning of this? Why isn't he lining up for porridge? Why come here instead? Could it be that he couldn't squeeze into the line and, seeing that Jun had red hair, decided to try pulling strings? "Big brother, is what they're saying true?" The child asked curiously, looking up. "What's true? The free porridge?" Uzumaki Jun smiled and nodded. "Of course it's true. Why aren't you lining up? Aren't you afraid it'll run out?" However, upon hearing Jun's words, the child pouted unhappily. "Who's asking about that? I mean the job recruitment." "Oh, you mean that?" Jun's eyes instantly lit up. It seemed the advertising was working well if people were coming to ask about it. "Of course it's true. Food and lodging are provided. The Land of Whirlpools, this company no, this country has pretty good benefits. Especially once you become a citizen of the Land of Whirlpools, you'll even get holiday bonuses." Then the child seemed happy and asked shyly, "Do you hire kids?" So that's what he wanted to ask. Jun immediately understood as he looked at the malnourished child before him and nodded. "Of course we do. The Land of Whirlpools has an orphanage, a place full of love. The director is kind and caring, the conditions inside are great, you can eat your fill every day, and there are even teachers to educate you. What do you think of me?" Jun smiled as he looked at the child. The child gave Jun a once-over and thought for a moment. "Not great. Kids these days are so rude." Jun maintained his smile. "Don't just look at how handsome and confident I am now. Back then, I was just a refugee in the Land of Rain." "Really?" The child looked up skeptically, as if saying, "Don't lie to me. Mom, Dad. Forgive me, but I need to reel people in." "Of course." Jun smiled, tilting his head at a 45-degree angle as if reminiscing. "I still remember it was a cold, hungry, stormy night. I wandered alone through the Land of Rain, lost. The cold and hunger gnawed at my body. I walked and walked until finally I collapsed." Jun's tone turned sorrowful. "As my consciousness faded, I thought at such a young age, before I could even contribute to the world, I was going to die just like that. But then, a shinobi with a spiral forward protector picked me up. That warm, comforting embrace, I still remember it to this day." His tone suddenly shifted to one of hope. "Later, I joined the land of whirlpools and felt love there. Slowly, I regained my confidence and found my purpose in life. The child looked at Jun suspiciously, as if saying, I may not have read many books, but I'm not blind. You have red hair. Seeming to notice the child's doubt, Jun continued smiling. As for the red hair, that's natural. You have to believe me, I really was an orphan. The land of whirlpools is really great. Why wait to sign up? With that, Jun quickly took the child's hand and led him to Uzumaki Kai. Kai-sama, this child is here to register. Hearing Jun's form of address, Kai felt a headache coming on. He gave Jun a speechless look. Though he was confused by Jun's actions, as a shinobi, acting was a required skill. He immediately put on a serious face. MHM. Name. Yakushi No. The child answered timidly. Age. Kai continued questioning, not noticing Jun's stunned expression as he stared at the child. 7. Gender. Before Yakushi No could answer. You're a girl. Jun exclaimed in shock, staring at her. The name Yakushi No was all too familiar. The legendary walking nun, the future second head of Konaha's medical department, and the foster mother of Kabuto, the one who instigated the Fourth Shinobi World War. There were two infamous incidents involving Konaha. The first was forcing a brother to slaughter his own clan, then not allowing his younger brother to seek revenge. After a round of love and peace, Suzuki immediately repented, deciding to become Konaha's shadow, silently protecting the village for the sake of his best friend. The other was Kabuto. Forcing him to kill his only family, then not allowing him to take revenge. In the end, after a series of bizarre manipulations, an impromptu Izanami made him realize the error of his ways. Then, a round of fists of love made Kabuto regain his true self, return to Konaha, and dedicate his life to the village. In other words, Konaha was just that stubborn. No matter what, if you did something against the village, you were in the wrong. As for Konaha's higher UPS, this is all for Konaha, for the village. How could they possibly be wrong? The fault lies with you. And these talented rogue ninja. All of them still love Konaha deep down. In the end, they all silently dedicate themselves to the village. Reading this part, Jun couldn't help but feel a headache. Had they all been put under genjutsu? After reaching such extremes, they were all beaten up and instantly repented, spending the rest of their lives serving their enemies. Are they masochists or what? But now, Jun's eyes gleamed. Maybe the land of whirlpools could have two heads for its medical department and orphanage directors. These are all talented people. Especially Kabuto. Early on, he was a science prodigy. Later, after a skin change, he made the entire shinobi world call him daddy. So, recruit them, absolutely recruit them. How did you know? Yakushi No looked at Jun in surprise. How could you tell I'm a girl? That was a profound question. Should he tell her it was because of her name? I guessed. You're so petite, you must be a girl. Jun laughed it off. Register first, register first. MHM. Non nodded and looked at Kai. There are other kids too. Will you take them? We'll take them, of course. Jun nodded. The land of whirlpools is short on people. We'll take as many as we can get. Where are they? Non thought for a moment before deciding to speak up. They're hiding in a cave. Jun naturally understood what hiding meant. It seemed Non had come out to look for food and told the others to hide so they wouldn't be harmed. He smiled. No problem. The land of whirlpools can arrange an escort. You can request that our shinobi go with you to bring them back. Really? Non's eyes instantly brightened. She then turned to Kai with a hopeful look, as if asking, is what this red-haired kid said true? Kai, feeling another headache, nodded. Yes, it was true. He had just added that rule. He waved over a shinobi behind him. Go with this little girl and bring everyone back. Make sure nothing goes wrong. He wasn't sure if it was just his imagination, but he suddenly felt that Jun-sama was particularly interested in this blonde girl. Could it be? Sigh, the affairs of those above are best left uninvestigated by a mere Jainin like me. Chapter 74, You are so handsome and dashing. People came one after another to sign up. It seemed that because they had eaten their fill, they now trusted the land of whirlpools. After all, they were just a group of ordinary refugees. If these ninja lords wanted to exploit them, they wouldn't have gone to such wasteful lengths. So now, They were given food, they were given drink. It must be because they still had value. As for exactly what that value was, the refugees didn't care. They only cared about whether they had value or not, rather than being abandoned and left to starve or freeze to death. Now that someone was willing to take them in, why wouldn't they go? Uzumaki Jun watched as the refugees formed a line. This shouldn't be a problem anymore. The real worry had been that no one would come. But once one person stepped forward, slowly, everyone else would follow. As for the Konaha monitoring nearby, Uzumaki Jun simply ignored them. He had the Hokage's official permission to recruit refugees here. If there were any issues, they could take it up with the Hokage. As for the group of masked Konaha hiding in the shadows, were they root or ANBU? Name: Ito. Age: 25. Gender: male. Skills: none. Next. Name. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner until all of you, scram. A rogue ninja shoved the refugees aside and pushed to the front of the line, shouting loudly, "This lord goes first." Uzumaki Kai narrowed his eyes at the scene. Someone was here. To cause trouble? He glanced sideways and saw Jun-sama shaking his head at him. Uzumaki Kai subtly nodded in understanding and turned to the burly, arrogant rogue ninja. Name. Listen well, this lord is named Hiramatsu Tora. The rogue ninja didn't wait for Uzumaki Kai to prompt him and spoke directly. Chunin level, nicknamed Thousand Slayer. Hurry up and register me, then bring out the good food for this lord. This guy might be an idiot. No, wait. This was exactly the kind of talent Konaha needed. Uzumaki Jun and Uzumaki Kai exchanged glances. For a mere Chunin level to act so arrogantly, even Kabuto, after unlocking Sage Mode, had played it safe and never revealed his true form. Though the land of Whirlpools was a small nation, it was clearly stated that they were allies with Konaha. How dare this guy act so brazenly? Uzumaki Jun admired people like this. If he didn't send him to Konaha, where else would he send him? Hat. Sir, you are so handsome and dashing, with such an imposing presence. Anyone can tell you're no ordinary person. Uzumaki Jun immediately put on a look of admiration. You're actually a ninja. Humph. Hiramatsu Tora, hearing the praise, proudly rested his sword on his shoulder and said arrogantly, "You've got good eyes, kid." Ah. Uzumaki Jun sighed regretfully. You actually want to sign up for the land of Whirlpools? What an honor for us. Of course Hiramatsu Tora raised his chin. This is your. Before he could finish. We absolutely cannot let someone like you be buried in the land of Whirlpools. Uzumaki Jun declared righteously. You deserve a brighter, more glorious future. So, as allies of Konaha, we have both the responsibility and the duty to recommend talent to them. Uzumaki Jun gazed at him with admiration. Just one look tells me you're the kind of talent that the leader of the 5 great shinobi villages, the beacon of peace in the shinobi world Konaha desperately needs. Take this letter. Once you reach Konaha and become one of their ninja, you'll be treated as a VIP. Cage-level teachers will be yours to choose from, forbidden jutsu will be yours to learn. Believe me, you are exactly the kind of person Konaha craves. After all, you're a true talent. Kai, quickly prepare travel expenses for this lord so he won't go hungry on his way to Konaha. Remember, we are Konaha's allies. How can we let Konaha's genius go hungry? Konaha's genius? Uzumaki Kai stared speechlessly at Jun-sama's performance but obediently replied, yes. Konaha's genius is the land of Whirlpool's genius. I'll go prepare it right away. Good. Uzumaki Jun nodded in satisfaction at Kai's quick cooperation. He turned back to Hiramatsu Tora with a smile. Please wait a moment. Oh. Sure. Hiramatsu Tora, however, was a little dazed after being showered with compliments. But hearing that someone was recommending him to one of the 5 great shinobi villages, he nodded in satisfaction. So he was actually Konaha's genius? He took the recommendation letter from Uzumaki Jun and said, "You're a good kid. Want to learn ninjutsu from me?" Damn, this guy might actually be an idiot. No wonder he was wandering around as a rogue ninja. Uzumaki Jun smiled. I'm not qualified enough. I'm sure Tora-sama will find much better disciples. True. Hiramatsu Tora nodded. You're still lacking. Tora-sama, these are the travel expenses the land of Whirlpools has prepared for you. We hope that after you become Konaha's genius, you won't forget about us. By then, Uzumaki Kai had returned with the supplies. Of course. Shikaso-sama, should we take action? Konaha watched the Uzunin's shameless tactics with disbelief. What kind of allies were these, sending scum straight to Konaha as if they weren't watching? And a nearly 40-year-old Chunin, what kind of genius was that? Nara Shikaso was equally speechless. This 7-year-old cage-level brat kept spouting nonsense about being Konaha's allies and generations of friendship, yet he had no qualms about screwing Konaha over. What kind of allies acted like this? With a resigned wave of his hand, he said, have someone follow him. Find an opportunity to. Nara Shikaso made a throat-slitting gesture and sighed. Also, retrieve that letter. He wanted to see what the kid had written inside. Meanwhile, in the shadows. Kai-sama, should we take action? A root ninja stared at Uzumaki Jun with a vicious glare. They're ruining Konaha's reputation. No, none of us are a match for that child yet, Kai said, narrowing his eyes. Now is not the time to strike. But don't worry. Dan-sama has already given us orders. When the time comes, everyone here including these civilians, none shall be spared. And now, first, deal with the Uzunin who left earlier, along with those children. Kill them all. Yes. Ah. Uzumaki Jun watched as the so-called genius left. The guy was probably actually an idiot if he thought he'd make it to Konaha. Most likely, he'd be intercepted and killed by Konaha halfway there. We should recommend more talents to Konaha. Uzumaki Jun sighed emotionally. After all, we're allies. Uzumaki Kai, standing beside him, gave his lord a blank look. Jun-sama was determined to screw Konaha over as hard as possible. Hadn't he noticed the Konaha nearby were practically itching to smash their recruitment booth? If not for the Hokage's orders, they probably would have attacked already. Chapter 75, Maybe life in Uzumaki is better. Don't worry, as long as we don't harm Konaha's interests, it's fine. Uzumaki Jun said casually. The rules clearly stated that as long as they didn't cause harm to Konaha, they could do whatever they wanted. But wasn't this already harming Konaha's interests? Uzumaki Kai was speechless. Then what exactly counted as harming Konaha's interests? This is just a small matter. Uzumaki Jun glanced at the slightly reduced number of Konaha nearby. It seemed they had indeed gone to intercept and kill. He said, don't even mention a mere Chunin. Even a cage-level ninja means nothing to Konaha, one of the 5 great shinobi villages. Besides, we're introducing talent to them. Who knows if that idiot, genius has some hidden bloodline. The nearby Konaha, hearing such shameless words, were about to take action but were stopped by Nara Shikaso. Don't act rashly. What he said isn't wrong. Nara Shikaso said helplessly. This brat wasn't wrong at all. A mere Chunin wouldn't pose any threat to Konaha. Moreover, the Hokage had said they could only act if Uzumaki harmed Konaha's interests. Otherwise, they were free to do as they pleased. And the number of refugees in the Land of Fire was indeed too large. The higher UPS would be happy to see someone help reduce that number. As for only acting if Konaha's interests were harmed, they'd have to see what this brat wrote in the letter. This is so annoying. Nara Shikaso sighed. It should have been over by now. I should be lying on my bed at home, enjoying the afternoon sunday. The winter sunlight in Konaha is especially comfortable. Why am I suffering here instead? Shikaso-sama. The ninja who had gone out earlier returned. We've brought the letter back. Helpless, he had to set aside his complaints again. And in a month, maybe, he could finally take a break? Give it here. Let me see. Shikaso lay on a tree branch, yawning. Let's see how Uzumaki plans to recommend geniuses to Konaha. Then, he opened the envelope. This is an idiot. Do whatever you want with him. What they? Nara Shikaso was dumbfounded when he saw only one sentence in the letter. Damn it. Recommending talent? Geniuses? All just excuses. He just wanted to borrow Konaha's blade to deal with his own problems while avoiding appearing too brutal in front of the civilians. But if they acted like this, wouldn't they risk failing to recruit people, with the refugees all heading to Konaha instead? Sure enough. Nara Shikaso watched as the once orderly line began to stir. Slowly, some people left the queue, seemingly heading toward Konaha's direction. Now, well. Let's see how you handle this. Narashikaso yawned. How to handle it? Uzumaki Jun didn't plan to do anything. If they wanted to go to Konaha, then let them. Forcing them to stay would only make them resentful. If they ended up living poorly in Uzumaki, they might even complain. Better to let them go to Konaha. As for those who stayed, perhaps they believed in Uzumaki promises, or maybe they were grateful for that bowl of porridge. Some might just not want to travel far. But if Uzumaki could give them stability in a life where they could eat their fill, they would naturally feel gratitude. Because what they wanted wasn't much, just peace, safety, food, and warmth. Civilians who had experienced war cherished peace more than most. The Uzunin, seeing that Jun-sama didn't react to the unrest in the line, also took no further action. They simply reassured the refugees to queue properly and continued recruiting as usual. Suddenly, Uzumaki Jun sensed the Flying Thunder God technique seal being activated. What's wrong? Uzumaki Kai, noticing something was off with Jun-sama, quickly had someone take his place and asked. The seal was activated. Uzumaki Jun said seriously. What? Uzumaki Kai was shocked. The Jounin who went with that girl. Yes. Uzumaki Jun nodded gravely. Don't move. We're going to check now. Then. He stood on tiptoe and grabbed Uzumaki Kai's shoulder. He was still too short. Even with a shinobi's accelerated growth, he was much shorter than Uzumaki Kai. After all, he was still just a child. Kota, what do we do now? Uzunin frowned at the masked shinobi surrounding them. Are these Konaha's ANBU? Doesn't matter. Uzumaki Kota also stared warily at the Konaha ANBU. Since it's Jun-sama's order, we must get these kids out safely. That's our duty as shinobi. I'll hold them off. Righteous, you take the kids and break through. Uzumaki Kota said firmly. Kota, I. Uzumaki Righteous hesitated. Let me. Shut up. This isn't the time for that. Uzumaki Kota cut him off, glaring at the masked shinobi. Kids, stay close. If you fall behind, you'll die. Yakushi No knew the situation was dire, but she had never expected these two shinobi to refuse to abandon them, choosing instead to protect them even if it might cost them their lives. Maybe living in Uzumaki wouldn't be so bad. Yakushi No thought silently. Kid, you hear me? Before she could dwell on it, Uzumaki Kota interrupted. Stick close to that shinobi next to me. Don't look back. Just run. Yes. Yakushi No snapped back to attention, tightly gripping the hands of two children slightly younger than her, and nodded seriously. At that moment, multi-shadow clone jutsu. Uzumaki Kota instantly used the jutsu he had mastered during the war. Dozens of shadow clones appeared, encircling the masked shinobi in a counter-siege. Then, wind release, wind cutter. Uzumaki Kota shouted. Now, Uzumaki Righteous seemed to understand Kota's intention. He also used multi-shadow clone jutsu, surrounding the children. Taking advantage of the masked shinobi's momentary distraction at the sheer number of clones, he rushed toward a gap in the encirclement. Seeing the Uzunin fleeing with 5 children, Wahei immediately ordered a group of root shinobi to pursue. Just 2 jounin and with kids in tow, how naive. If they abandoned the children, at least one might escape. But now, neither would make it. Glancing at the pursuing root shinobi, Wahei paid them no further mind. His cold eyes fixed on the Uzunin covering their retreat. What a ridiculous act. He couldn't help but think. A few kids were nowhere near as valuable as a jounin. So, they would all die. As for shadow clones, Konaha knew them better than anyone. Damn it. Uzumaki Righteous sensed the feedback from the shadow clones left behind. He knew the root shinobi were catching up, but I promised Jun-sama and Kai-sama I'd bring them back. A shadow clone carried a child as they sprinted toward the relief point. Letting the kids run on their own? No way. They were just children, they'd never outrun trained shinobi. So, I won't abandon them. But then, Uzunin, stop right there. A cold voice rang out from behind. Chapter 76, this title isn't good. Uzumaki Mashin stopped, his face wary as he looked at the 7 masked jonin before him. He gave a bitter laugh inwardly. It seemed impossible to escape with the children in tow. He had his shadow clones set the children down and said calmly, "You all run on your own. Just head toward the relief station. Once you get there, you'll be safe." Yakushi No, hearing Uzumaki Mashin's words, gritted her teeth and tightly gripped the hands of the 2 youngest children. "It'll be fine. It has to be fine," she prayed silently in her heart. "However, kill them. Leave none alive," one of the masked jonin said coldly. Whoosh! All the masked jonin sprang into action. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Uzumaki Mashin once again used the multi-shadow clone jutsu, sending most of the clones to escort the 5 children away while he charged at the masked ninja with a jutsu. Run! After releasing a jutsu, Uzumaki Mashin flipped back and threw shuriken at the nearby ninja. Mutually multiplying. "Damn it, explosive tags! Dodge!" one of the masked ninjas shouted. However, hurry! While the ninja dodged, Uzumaki Mashin didn't actually use the mutually multiplying explosive tags. Instead, he used the moment for the children to flee. After them. The masked ninja didn't care much about the fleeing children, simply sending 1 jonin to pursue them. As for the Uzumaki ninja before them, he was as good as dead. Uzumaki Mashin knew he couldn't hold out much longer. He was only a jonin, not an elite jonin or cage level. There was no way he could take on so many jonin, especially Konaha jonin. When a shuriken stabbed into his back, he knew he was done for. "I hope those kids can get away." But the messages constantly relayed back from his shadow clones told him it was hopeless. "Fire release, great fireball. Fire release, great fireball. Fire release, fire dragon flame bullet." Seeing them all unleash fire jutsu at once, Uzumaki Mashin inwardly cursed. This was really the end. Yet. Whoosh! Just as the jutsu were about to hit. "What are you closing your eyes for?" Uzumaki Jun dragged Uzumaki Mashin away with the Flying Thunder God technique, dodging the attack. He said irritably, "Waiting to die." And damn, he was heavy. If not for the Flying Thunder God technique, he wouldn't have been able to pull him away. "Lord Jun." Hearing Jun's voice, Uzumaki Mashin opened his eyes in surprise. "Where's Kouta?" Uzumaki Jun frowned as he surveyed the area. These masked ninja were clearly root. Only Danzo, that psychopath, would slaughter refugees for no reason. Uzumaki Mashin fell silent, then said urgently, "Those children. It's fine. Kai is handling it." Hearing that Kouta had died, Uzumaki Jun's eyes turned icy as he stared at the Konaha ninja. "Can you still move?" "Of course," Uzumaki Mashin replied with a smile. "I'm an Uzumaki jonin. A little injury like this will heal in no time." "Then go help Kai," Uzumaki Jun said, scanning the 6 root ninja. "And stall the Konaha ninja. As for these guys, I'll personally send them to apologize to Kouta." "Yes." Uzumaki Mashin immediately agreed. As for why he didn't stay to help Lord Jun. Did Lord Jun even need his help? Lord Jun had fought tailed beasts before. And he knew the Flying Thunder God technique. It was better not to get in the way. However, Uzumaki Jun really did want him to stay out of it. He was only a jonin himself, not cage level. That one time had been an accident, an unrepeatable fluke. But even as a jonin, Uzumaki Jun could confidently say, "I can fight any cage to a standstill." Meaning neither could kill the other. As for these jonin before him? It would just take a bit more time. Stay alert. The root jonin immediately grew serious, though his mask hid his expression. Intel says this kid has cage level strength and knows the Flying Thunder God technique. The mission is a failure. Retreat now. But thinking of running now? Isn't that a bit naive? Flee just because you can't win? Think you know the Flying Thunder God technique too? Uzumaki Jun sneered, though inwardly he felt a bit proud. It seemed he had reached the same level of prestige as Konaha's Yellow Flash. The mere sight of him made them abandon their mission. Should he call himself the Red Flash of Kirigakur? Or the Crimson Flash of the Whirlpool? That name didn't sound great. It sounded like, whoa, Crimson Flash. What would other ninjas say when they saw him? Whoa! Crimson Flash, it's the Crimson Flash of the Whirlpool. Way too easy to laugh at. Uzumaki Jun threw a kunai marked with the Flying Thunder God seal, planning to take them down one by one. Guerrilla warfare. Who was afraid of who? Kids, stay hidden. Uzumaki Kai, seeing only one masked jonin ahead, relaxed slightly but still said to the children behind him, "Don't run around, okay?" Yakushi No, seeing it was an Uzumaki ninja, also relaxed. For some reason, she began to trust the ninja of Kirigakur. Maybe it was because the two ninja before had stayed behind to cover their escape, making her let her guard down. "I really want to see if Kirigakur is as good as that red-haired boy said," Yakushi No thought longingly. Maybe their lives would get better? No war, enough to eat, and pretty houses to live in. However, Uzumaki Kai glared at the masked ninja, his eyes filled with killing intent. Damn it, he'd almost been too late. Lord Jun was very interested in this blonde girl. What if something happened to her? Ugh. Lord Jun might just go fight the Nine Tails in Konaha. So. Wind release, wind cutter. You're staying right here. Seeing the masked jonin dodge, Uzumaki Kai wasn't surprised. He threw a kunai, then charged forward with another in hand. Wind release, wind return. But the masked jonin dodged again. Fire release, flame bullet. The masked jonin fired off a jutsu, then dodged Uzumaki Kai's kunai and blocked his strike with his own kunai. After a clash, both sides retreated. Wind release. Fire release. Uzumaki Kai saw the stalemate. As expected of a Konaha jonin. As an elite jonin, he couldn't finish this quickly. But Lord Jun had said Konaha ninja would catch up soon. He didn't have time to waste. He had to end this fight fast. Swish, swish. He threw a few kunai, but they were dodged again. Then, wind release, wind blade. Suddenly, a voice came from behind the masked jonin. It's Mashin. Chapter 77, Konaha is here to help. When he saw people approaching, the masked jonin knew it was no longer possible to complete the kill. Just as he was preparing to retreat. Multiple shadow clone technique. Multiple shadow clone technique. In an instant, over 100 shadow clones surrounded him. MMP, these Uzunin clearly had no intention of letting him leave. The masked jonin raised his kunai, warily watching the encircling ninja. With a backflip, he leaped into the air. Fire release, great fireball technique. Poof. Poof. A small number of shadow clones were dispelled. Uzumaki Kai and Uzumaki Mashin paid no attention. Their real bodies hid among the shadow clones, continuously releasing ninjutsu and throwing kunai. No matter what, this Konaha ANBU ninja was definitely going to die. But damn it, there's movement. Uzumaki Kai heard footsteps approaching from not far away and said to Uzumaki Mashin, "Hurry up and finish this. The Konaha ninja are almost here." Got it. Uzumaki Mashin nodded, his eyes filled with hatred as he stared at the masked jonin. Water release, water dragon bullet. The Uzumaki clan wasn't just proficient in wind release. The masked jonin used a body flicker technique to dodge the wind release, but behind him, Uzumaki Kai's kunai came stabbing toward him. He tried to twist midair to evade, but slash! A kunai still pierced his right arm. His expression was unreadable. Well, with the mask on, Kai and Mashin couldn't see his face anyway. But they knew this jonin was starting to tire. The masked jonin panted heavily. He knew that unless something unexpected happened, he was done for. Without a word, he continued throwing kunai and ninjutsu. But damn it! It's the ANBU. A Konaha ninja saw the ninja fighting the Uzunin in the distance. Mask, black bodysuit. This was the ANBU uniform. No, not ANBU. Narashikaso internally rejected the idea. The third Hokage would absolutely never order an attack on Uzunin at this time. In fact, if nothing unexpected happened, the third would never start a war during peacetime. Especially since among them was an important figure from Kirigakur, Uzumaki Jun. If anything happened, it would be a fight to the death. Moreover, Lady Mito was still alive. The third Hokage would never dare to risk universal condemnation by attacking Uzunin. So there was only one possibility. Root. The root hiding in Konaha's shadows. The only question was whether this was the third Hokage's decision or save him, Narashikaso said solemnly. Just rescue him. Don't engage the Uzunin in conflict. But now, no matter what, as Konaha ninja, they couldn't just stand by and watch one of their own be killed. So, speed up. He could see that this root ninja was on his last legs. Uzumaki Kai and Uzumaki Mashin were also tense. MMP, why were these Konaha ninjas so fast at the worst possible moment? But, did they think they could save him? No way. Finish this quickly. Ignore the Konaha ninja. Uzumaki Kai said. Understood. Uzumaki Mashin replied, his hands never stopping as he unleashed ninjutsu and kunao. Uzumaki Kai did the same, relentlessly attacking the masked jonin. He could tell this jonin was about to collapse. So, now's the time. Seeing the masked jonins dodging slow down, Uzumaki Kai knew this was the moment to kill him. As for the Konaha ninja closing in behind them. Too bad. Wind release, wind cutter. Wind release, wind cutter. Uzumaki Kai and Uzumaki Mashin simultaneously unleashed an A-rank wind release ninjutsu. Stop. Seeing the Uzunin going for the kill, Narashikaso roared. MMP, they were so close. But now. It was too late. Because no one listened to him. Thud. Blood sprayed as the root jonin collapsed. The Konaha ninja froze at the sight, then glared furiously at the Uzunin. How dare they kill a Konaha ninja right in front of them? Did they think Konaha was a joke? Did Kirigakur want to start a war? Narashikaso forced himself to calm down, his eyes icy as he stared at them. Uzumaki Mashin raised his kunao, ready for a fight with the Konaha ninja. But then, Uzumaki Kai put away his kunao and smiled, cutting off Narashikaso. Don't be hasty. Konaha is here to help. The Konaha ninja and Uzumaki Mashin were stunned. Had they misheard? Especially Uzumaki Mashin, he couldn't believe it. Either he was hearing things, or Kai-sama had lost his mind. Otherwise, hadn't they just killed a Konaha ANBU member? He, Uzumaki Mashin, had carried out missions in Konaha and seen the big leagues. There was no way he was mistaken. He gave Kai-sama a suspicious look, as if to say, don't lie to me. The Konaha ninja snapped out of their daze. Hearing the Uzunin say they were here to help, they grew furious. MMP, they killed a Konaha ANBU member right in front of them and then said Konaha was here to help? Was this mockery? But Uzumaki Kai ignored them and cheerfully continued, no need to thank us. We just helped you deal with a rogue ninja in the Land of Fire. Honestly, the security in the Land of Fire is terrible. How could rogue ninja be allowed to slaughter civilians? Come, come. Uzumaki Kai ignored the scowling Konaha ninja and waved the children over. Look, this is just brutal. Even children weren't spared. If we hadn't arrived in time, the consequences would have been unthinkable. The Konaha ninja fell silent. Were all Uzunin this shameless? Couldn't they tell this was a Konaha ANBU uniform? Don't joke around. But the children in front of them, looking at them with fear. Ah, yes. Narashikaso's expression instantly shifted to a smile. This ninja has been on Konaha's wanted list for a long time. We never expected you to catch him. You've done us a huge favor. Now was not the time to pick a fight with Kirigakur. And this was a root ninja. Narashikaso was pro-Hokage. It was best not to make a big deal out of this. Everything needed to be discussed with the Hokage first. Oh, so he was a wanted criminal. Uzumaki Kai smiled. Then the bounty. Hearing this, Narashikaso's face darkened. MMP, since when were Uzunin this brazen? Weren't they supposed to be straightforward, pure and kind? But now. It'll be delivered shortly, Narashikaso said with a forced smile, though inwardly, his heart was bleeding. I wonder if the Hokage will reimburse this. Uzumaki Kai nodded and added after a moment, oh, you might want to prepare a bit more. By now, Jun-sama should have taken care of things, right? Just a few jonin, no big deal for Jun-sama. Narashikaso frowned. What did that mean? Extortion? Because there are more up ahead, probably accomplices. Jun-sama is dealing with them now, Uzumaki Kai said casually. WTF? Chapter 78, he isn't that strong at all. Will Prince Jun and Lord Kai be alright? Uzunin asked while registering civilians who wanted to go to the Land of Whirlpools, glancing worriedly at his companion. Their expressions looked serious. Don't worry. The other Uzunin replied casually. Lord Kai is an elite Jainin, and Prince Jun his face filled with admiration. He's invincible. True. Someone as strong as Prince Jun definitely won't be in trouble. So let's just focus on our mission. They'll be back soon. However, Uzumaki Jun had no idea that his recent displays of power had boosted the Uzunin's confidence in him to an absurd degree. The truth was, he was only a Jainin. But now. Damn it. He was facing an elite Jainin from the Aberame clan. The Aberame clan was known for their versatility. Whatever ability they needed, they could cultivate the right insects for it. Whether it was offense, scouting, or even medical ninjutsu, they could do it all. Wasn't that why Aberame Shino was sidelined in the later parts of the story? Because his abilities were too overpowered. He remained undefeated throughout the Shinobi world until Boruto's era, where he became less relevant and his strength was nerfed. So, looking at the swarm of insects in front of him, Uzumaki Jun felt nothing but disgust. Every time he attacked, his opponent just used an insect clone. How was he supposed to fight like this? Neither could gain the upper hand. As for the other root Jainin, he had taken them all out one by one through sneak attacks. Only this guy remained. Truly a nameless, emotionless assassination machine. Even when all his comrades died, he remained unfazed. Jun threw a flying thunder god kunao, instantly teleporting next to him, forming a raise nan. But it was another insect clone. Jun knew this couldn't go on. The commotion from Uzumaki Kai's side had already died down, meaning Konaha reinforcements would arrive soon. But what should he do? Cage level. Aberame Wahei frowned as he observed the 7-year-old boy before him. His strength didn't match the intel. A 7-year-old Jainin was indeed a genius, but calling him cage level was absurd. Had the intel been wrong? Otherwise, why would they claim this child was a cage level shinobi? But many had witnessed him suppressing a tailed beast. The sheer pressure, the destructive force. It had been overwhelming. Was it a forbidden technique? One that required specific conditions to activate? As for space-time ninjutsu, the boy clearly knew it, but that alone wouldn't be enough to kill him. It seems I need to relay this to Lord Dan's. A 7-year-old Jainin was far less concerning than a cage-level threat. Dan's would surely eliminate him before he could grow stronger. Uzumaki Jun frowned as he watched him. What should I do now? He knew this Aberame Jainin had already realized he wasn't cage level, just a Jainin. So, he couldn't let him escape. Because only a cage level reputation could deter other villages. He doesn't seem to be cage level after all. Were we all mistaken? White Zetsu asked curiously, watching the battle unfold. Should we still recruit him? A mere Jainin wasn't exactly rare for them. No. There was no mistake back then. That pressure, Black Zetsu muttered. It was unmistakable. Maybe it was a forbidden technique. Let's keep watching. A 7-year-old Jainin will definitely reach cage level in the future. For now, let's test his worth. See if he's qualified. Narashikaso was at a loss for words. It seemed Dan's had sent a lot of people to their deaths. This kid had suppressed a tailed beast. Sending so many to kill Uzunin and refugees. Of course they'd get wiped out. Even if Dan's didn't want them recruiting refugees, this wasn't the way. Killing innocent civilians like this. And couldn't he have waited until they left before making a move? Oh, right, that wouldn't work either, since the boy knew space-time ninjutsu. At this rate, all Shikaso could do was collect the bodies. The only question was, how many bounties would he have to pay this time? Damn it! Why did he have to open his big mouth and call them Konaha's wanted criminals? Now that they'd captured so many, would he have to pay up? These were all Jainin. The frustration of paying someone for killing your own people was unbearable. Lord Shikaso, what should we do now? A Konahanin glanced at the Uzunin and said angrily, these were Konaha's ANBU. Shut up! Narashikaso snapped. Act like you don't know them. They're just rogue shinobi. Until the Hokage gives orders, we don't make a move. Especially now. Everyone, remember we know nothing. Besides, these weren't Konaha's ANBU. As for Uzumaki Kai nearby, he completely ignored the Konahanin's whispers. And Uzumaki Mashin was staring at Lord Kai with admiration. It seemed that after following Prince Jun for so long, Lord Kai was no longer the cold, elite Uzumaki Jainin who could make people tremble with a single glare. Instead, he'd become shameless? No more cunning. Who knew such tactics existed? Truly, this was Prince Jun's influence. His admiration for Prince Jun grew even stronger. To kill another village's shinobi right in front of them and still get paid. This move was absolutely brilliant. Have the children been taken to the relief point? Uzumaki Kai asked. My clone returned. They've been taken care of, Uzumaki Mashin nodded. Good. Uzumaki Kai nodded. Make sure they're looked after, especially that blonde girl. Understood. Mashin replied, though confused. But since it was an order, he would carry it out faithfully. Don't worry. There might be benefits later, Kai said meaningfully. Though he wondered if Mashin would end up hospitalized forever. Beaten up by the young lady. Hey! Mashin was baffled. What benefits? But seeing that Lord Kai didn't elaborate, he stayed silent. Kai sighed inwardly as he followed the Konaha in. Prince Jun's methods. He just couldn't understand them. Halt! Suddenly, Narashikaso raised his hand, signaling the team to stop. The Konaha fell silent at the sight of 6 masked Jainin lying dead before them. But... Tisk! Your security here is terrible. So many Jainin criminals. Uzumaki Kai shook his head, feigning concern. The Konaha glared at him. Damn it, could he just shut up? They were barely holding back as it was. But... Kai ignored them, sighing heavily as if deeply troubled by the Land of Fire's safety. After an intense battle, Uzumaki Jun and Abarame Wahei separated. Wahei frowned. He knew he couldn't keep this up. He had to retreat. At least this mission wasn't a complete failure. He's not cage level. Dans would surely be pleased with this intel. Besides, neither could defeat the other like this. But... Jun stared at Wahei's position and sighed in relief. Finally, he's not jumping around the trees anymore. He'd been waiting for this moment. Chapter 79, this time the loss is huge. Boom. The Konaha Jounin and Uzunin all looked in shock at the loud noise in the distance. Narashikaso's eyelids twitched, he had a bad feeling. Maybe they didn't need to hurry so much this time. Anyway, it was just a shady deal. Early or late didn't make a difference. He glanced at Uzumaki Kai next to him and saw he also looked shocked. What was there to be shocked about? Was the fight that intense? However, Uzumaki Kai was truly shocked inside. Just a few Jounin, for Jun-sama, should be solvable with one Flying Thunder God technique. But now... What was with this huge commotion? Were the opponents very strong? Konaha's cage level? Narashikaso sighed inwardly and helplessly shouted, let's go. Since they were fellow villagers, at least don't let their bodies rot in the wilderness. As for the money, I wonder if Danzo-sama can reimburse it. Probably can't ask the Hokage for money. Or should the Nara clan pay? Just joking, although the clan makes good money selling deer antlers, but... There are many people in the clan. Have to find someone else to pay. Can only see if the Hokage can squeeze money out of Danzo. Anyway, this blame. Danzo has to take it. Land of Whirlpools. Uncle Yosh, Uncle Yosh. A young Uzunin came into the tent calling. Oh, it's Supervisor Shumpi. A middle-aged man around 50 to 60 years old stood up happily and said respectfully to the entering ninja, what's the matter? Nothing much. Uzumaki Shumpi casually found a seat and said smiling, no need to call me Sama, just call me Supervisor is fine. Haha, this old man is used to it, used to it. Yazunaka Yosh laughed and said. Here, take this. Uzumaki Shumpi took out a big pork leg and 3 bottles of alcohol, saying, our squad did well this time, these are rewards from the higher UPS, you distribute them. Distribute what? No need. Seeing the rewards, Yazunaka Yosh immediately said happily, this is what we should do. Stop the nonsense, take it. Uzumaki Shumpi's expression changed as he scolded, when I say take it then take it. These are what you all deserve, just do your jobs well from now on. Haha. Thank you Supervisor. Yazunaka Yosh took them happily, saying, Supervisor Shumpi staying for dinner tonight. Nah. Uzumaki Shumpi smiled and shook his head, saying, right, one more thing. In a few days Jun-sama will arrange for some outsiders to come. But there are too few people now, need some squad leaders. I put your name forward. Miyazunaka Yoshi pointed at himself in surprise, then became somewhat fearful, this old man doesn't know how. Definitely can't do it, definitely can't. He was just an ordinary person, how could he do such things? Enough, don't be nervous. Uzumaki Shumpi smiled helplessly, no need to be afraid, later just guide them to get familiar with the environment and work here is enough. He patted Yazunaka Yoshi's shoulder, your recent performance has been very good, just act normal later, no need to be too nervous. If there's any situation, report to me or other managers or supervisors. But Yazunaka Yoshi thought about it, being a poor farmer his whole life, suddenly having to manage people, he was still somewhat scared. No buts, if I say you can do it then you can. Uzumaki Shumpi said seriously, just do your job properly later. Okay, this old man thanks the supervisor. Finally Yazunaka Yoshi said happily. Alright, matters are arranged. Uzumaki Shumpi stood up saying, although today is a rest day, don't drink too much. Or if you can't get up tomorrow, there will be punishment. Supervisor Shumpi not staying for dinner. Nah. Have a meeting tonight, with new people coming soon, very busy recently, just one condition. Don't go overboard. I understand. Yazunaka Yoshi nodded, calling to Uzumaki Shumpi's back, we understand discipline. Then. You've got it good. Old man Yoshi. A middle-aged roommate patted old man Yoshi, saying, becoming a squad leader already. Haha. Yazunaka Yoshi said happily, just the supervisor's recommendation, nothing much. Staring blankly at the meat leg and alcohol in his hands, Yazunaka Yoshi sighed inwardly, little Yoshi. Your father is successful now, your wife and son are also living well. Heard Jun-sama say they will build a school later, Makoto is studying with the princess now, later I will send him to the school. No need to worry, life will get better and better. Alright, old man Yoshi, stop bragging. Another old man laughed, with such a big meat leg, let's not go to the cafeteria tonight, old man Yoshi is treating. Yes, old man Yoshi is treating. Immediately the whole dorm started clamoring, and these 3 bottles. This old man hasn't drunk in so long. Drink it. Damn it. Hearing they wanted to drink, Yazunaka Yoshi immediately hugged the 3 bottles tightly, saying, still need to work tomorrow, absolutely can't drink. Can have the meat, but must save some for my wife and grandson. Only 3 bottles, this old man hasn't drunk in so long either, how can I give them to you? I'll hide them and drink slowly alone. Haha, a little is fine. However, the others disagreed, saying, Supervisor Shumpi said as long as we can get up tomorrow is fine. Right, 3 bottles just 1 sip each is probably gone. Old man Yoshi don't be so stingy. Faced with their persuasion, Yazunaka Yoshi still shook his head and refused. However. Haha, if you still don't agree, then don't blame us. Let's do it, we'll just take it. Yes, don't let this stingy Yazunaka Yoshi drink. Haha, hurry up and take action. Immediately the whole tent was in chaos. Finally. Yazunaka Yoshi red-faced and stomping looked at them, roaring, damn you all, save me a sip. You bastards. Myron-san. Kushina pouted looking at the beautiful woman in front, saying, do you think Jun-nii really likes noodles? Of course. Uzumaki Myron nodded, otherwise how could little Jun make so many noodle dishes, he must really like noodles. As for yours. Uzumaki Myron looked at the black lump Kushina made, couldn't bear to say, no one would eat what you made. She's still just a child. She sighed inwardly. Then I'll work hard. Kushina clenched her small fists, saying seriously, then looking at the lump in front, this will be for Dad to eat, later ask Dad how it tastes. Must be pretty good, I think I improved a lot today. Yes. Uzumaki Myron wiped cold sweat, saying, ask the clan head how it tastes, little Kushina improves every day. Maybe today's is delicious. Kushina nodded full of fighting spirit. Uzumaki Myron glanced at Kushina working on noodles with great spirit, then looked at another red-haired little girl, seeing the decent noodles she made, nodded satisfied, at least. Her son won't need to learn cooking himself later. Achoo. The Uzumaki clan head sneezed a few times, rubbed his nose, looking at the documents sent up, saying work harder these next few days, Probably the first batch of refugees will arrive in 2 days. Prepare enough housing and food. And medical ninja, make sure no accidents happen. Seems staying up late recently, getting tired, even a bit sick. Should go to the medical department after work. The clan head looked at the ninjas around the table saying, and the squad leaders you need to select, all chosen? This is also very important, don't delay any more. Yes. The ninjas below answered seriously. Chapter 80, The security in your land of fire is really bad. Looking at the root ninja who had already been blown into mincemeat, Uzumaki Jun nodded with satisfaction. Magnet release small black room technique, plus explosive tags, the effect was awesome. The only trouble was secretly trapping him and stuffing explosive tags inside. This was also why he had kept his magnet release hidden so deeply, because... Haha. So how could one wander the world without some hidden cards? Moreover, he was a member of the Uzumaki clan. His head of smooth red hair proved he was not of mixed blood, so no one would think he could use the signature technique of Kirigakur. This gave him an opportunity. And indeed, that root ninja must have been completely stunned when he saw magnet release. He probably even thought the daimyo of Kirigakur had been cuckolded. Sensing the commotion not far away, Uzumaki Jun estimated that the Konaha would arrive soon. He glanced at the Uzunin lying among the masked ninja Uzumaki Kauta. Uzumaki Jun sighed, walked to his side, and murmured, I will take care of your family for you. Then he directly sealed him into a scroll to bring back to his family later. Death was the norm in the shinobi world. At this moment, swish, swish, the Konaha and Uzunin had arrived. Looking at the pile of Konaha masked ninja on the ground, Uzumaki Kai respectfully said, Lord Jun. As expected. A few jounin were nothing to Lord Jun. Though the power of that jutsu just now was a bit too much. On the other hand, Narashikaso had a pained expression. Damn it, there were actually 14 jounin. How much money would that cost? He definitely had to get Danzo to reimburse this. If he didn't pay, who would? And it seemed the Hokage would have to step in for this matter. He'd have to write another report later. Narashikaso rubbed his forehead with a headache. Uzumaki Jun nodded at the Uzunin, then turned to the Konaha with dark expressions and said with narrowed eyes, it seems the security in your land of fire isn't very good. Uzumaki Jun ignored the large-scale corpse retrieval operation. After Narashikaso arrived with his team, he threw out a sarcastic remark and left with Kai and Mashin, because if he didn't leave, the Konaha might go crazy. As for the bounty, he hadn't expected Kai to be so cheeky, killing people and then asking their comrades for money. Narashikaso probably wanted to slap himself for running his mouth. Of course, none of this concerned them. Right now, Kirigakur had only one goal, recruiting refugees. As for Uzumaki Jun, he planned to stay for a few more days. After the first batch was sent to Kirigakur, if nothing happened, he would prepare to go to Konaha. As for whether Danzo would send more people, it depended on whether the Hokage could make Danzo pay this time. If it hurt his wallet enough, Danzo probably wouldn't dare act recklessly again. After all, this was all money. You could say this bounty was an unexpected gain. Uzumaki Jun sighed inwardly. Narashikaso was truly an international friend of Kirigakur. Using the Flying Thunder God technique, he took Uzumaki Kai and Uzumaki Mashin back to the relief point. He patted Mashin's shoulder. It seemed he was feeling down because of his friend's death. A shinobi shouldn't be swayed by temporary emotions. This was a phrase that spread like wildfire in Konaha after the father of the copy ninja died. At that time, the copy ninja would become a shinobi who prioritized missions over comrades, and then Hiruzen Sarutobi would sigh and ask Minato to take care of him, teaching him the true meaning of being a shinobi, valuing comrades. Konaha really said whatever they wanted. Of course, none of this concerned Kirigakur. As for the so-called will of fire, to Uzumaki Jun, it was all nonsense. Only those who hadn't received proper education would believe it. If it were true, why didn't Hiruzen step in when Minato was about to die with the 9 tails, saying, "You're still young, let this old man do it instead"? Was it because Minato was the Hokage that he counted as the younger generation? Or did not being Hokage mean you could ignore the younger generation of the village? So, that old man was really rotten. As for what Kirigakur's core ideology would be in the future? Of course, it would be the socialist core values. What's the point of taking the socialist path without socialist core values? Recruited a few geniuses for Konaha? Uzumaki Jun asked curiously. Had they really been out for so long without any rogue ninja, criminals, or bandits applying? Impossible. These were chaotic times. Yes, we referred 7 to Konaha. 2 were genin, 5 were bandits. Uzumaki Jun froze for a moment, then sighed inwardly. Once again, he had made a great contribution to peace in the Land of Fire. With these scum gone, the Land of Fire would surely be much safer. Since they still had to stay here for a while, they could take their time. Maybe they could clear out all the bandits and mountain thieves in this area. Of course, if they didn't show up, Kai could pay them a visit and persuade them to turn over a new leaf, then send them to Konaha. Maintaining peace in the Land of Fire was Kirigakur's responsibility. After all, the Uzumaki clan and Konaha were allies. As for whether future academy students would have no bandits or thieves to practice on, what did that have to do with Kirigakur? Good job, keep it up. Uzumaki Jun praised. As for the Konahanin watching this scene with dark expressions, what did it matter? This wasn't the first time they'd done something like this. Konaha would just have to get used to it. As for Naruto, why hadn't he returned yet? Was he still collecting scraps for that Aberme clan member? Naruto frowned at the black powder on his fingers and muttered in confusion, "This is a specialty of Kirigakur? But why would it appear in the remains of a root ninja? Could there be a Sunanin here? Only a few Sunanin possessed this Kekii Genkai. How could they appear within the Land of Fire? Then, who was it?" "Lord Shikaso, we've finished collecting," a Konahanin reported. "Really? Did you collect all these scraps too?" "We collected everything we could." "Good, let's retreat. For now, they should head back." Who knew what tricks the Uzunin would pull next? As for the rest, leave it to the professionals. Magnet release, magnet release. White Zetsu exclaimed in surprise. This Uzumaki kid knows magnet release? Was the daimyo of Kirigakur cuckolded? This is unbelievable. Black Zetsu ignored the hysterical White Zetsu. He was also baffled. Magnet release? Since when could an Uzumaki use this? This wasn't scientific. Did this kid develop it himself, or was the daimyo of Kirigakur really cuckolded? This was even more believable than the first explanation. "Prepare to meet him," Black Zetsu said. "There might be surprises."
Thanks for listening.